Chapter 621. The weakest inner yard disciple was at least level 8 sky origin ancestor, while the average was between level 1 and level 5 mortal saint. In comparison, Naransu and Nalan Li were undoubtedly the weakest in the inner yard. Xiaogua, a genius disciple from the outer yard of Quanglong, and Lin Feng, who was once the top disciple of the outer yard, were barely qualified to enter the inner yard. The gravity of the mortal world could no longer judge the ability of a saint-level disciple, so there was the saint-suppressing stone that could restrain the power of a saint level. The more stones one moved, the stronger one's saint power would be, and one's future achievements would surpass those of the same level. I'll go first. Among the dense crowd of inner yard disciples, someone was the first to ascend the high platform, his face solemn. He went straight to the highest level to move the smallest saint-suppressing stone. When the disciple picked up the saint-suppressing stone, his face turned red and the veins on his forehead bulged, but the saint-suppressing stone did not move. Immediately, the crowd burst into laughter. Aha! Feng Sihai, you're a disgrace. Last year, you were a level 1 mortal saint, but you couldn't move the smallest saint-suppressing stone. This year, you're a level 2 mortal saint, but you still can't move it. When I was a sky origin ancestor, I moved the first stone. In comparison, your physical strength and mine are worlds apart. Get down here and let me. Neo Erden, take your place. Amid the wild laughter, an unusually tall disciple with a fierce face and bulging muscles stepped onto the high platform and sneered at the disciple who had just moved. The disciple named Feng Sihai knew that he was a disgrace, so he clenched his fists and stepped off the high platform under the disdainful gaze of the crowd. This year I, Neo Erden, will move the second saint-suppressing stone. The muscular man, Neo Erden, stepped on the stone of the third floor. He opened his strong arms and hugged the millstone-sized saint-suppressing stone. With a loud shout, the power of the holy level in his body was running, and there was an orange light shining on his body. Get up! Neo Erden bared his teeth and roared. His pants were torn by his power, but the millstone-sized saint-suppressing stone did not move at all. Ha ha! You're exaggerating, aren't you? Neo Erden, you're overestimating yourself. Hurry up and get down. The crowd roared with laughter again. The student named Feng Sihai also had a look of disdain on his face, instantly forgetting that he had also made a fool of himself. At this moment, Xiaogua was incomparably dignified. According to Neo Erden's saint-level aura, Neo Erden had already reached the third heavenly layer, but he couldn't even lift the second stone. It was obvious how shocking these saint-suppressing stones were. As Neo Erden stepped down dejectedly, batch after batch of disciples enthusiastically stepped onto the stage to try. They had cultivated for a long time just to prove themselves today. Unfortunately, most of them were able to lift the first wash basin stone. Only a very small number of people could move the second millstone. The number of people who could move the saint-suppressing stone on the third level could be counted on one hand. As for the fourth level, no one dared to attempt it until now. A bunch of useless trash. Below, Hao Yuduo gathered his Yuan Qi and leaped onto the stage. Then, he stepped onto the second level. Senior brother Hao is about to make a move. Last year, senior brother Hao was a 7th level mortal saint and moved the second level. He almost moved the third level. Today, senior brother Hao's cultivation has reached a new level. He will definitely be able to move the third stone. Senior brother Hao, you can do it. Many people cheered, their eyes full of anticipation. Hao Yuduo was ranked 13th on the heaven roll last year. If he moved the third level of the saint-suppressing stone this year, his ranking would most likely be higher. The praises from below made Hao Yuduo feel very comfortable. He turned back to look in Xiaogua's direction, but his eyes did not look at Xiaogua. Instead, he looked at Nalan Li and said with a smile, "Little sister Nalan Li, watch carefully. Today, I will definitely move the third saint-suppressing stone in front of you. Prove me. My ability is not something that those trash around you can compare to." After saying that, he confidently twirled the black hair on his nose twice. Then, he opened his arms and clasped them on the second level of the stone. He needed to warm up first so that he wouldn't suddenly burst out with all his strength and damage his meridians. Then, he could judge his current cultivation based on how he moved the second level. He remembered that when he moved the second level for the first time, he used a lot of strength. If he could easily move it today, it proved that he had the ability to move the third level. Rise. As he spoke, how Yodwa's body was shrouded in orange light. The second level of the millstone gradually began to rise under his saint power. Even the wash basin stone on the first level was lifted by him. Immediately, countless cheers erupted from the crowd. Elder Wu also nodded with a smile. It seemed that how Yodwa's cultivation had indeed improved a lot. Ha ha ha, it's too easy. Now, I'm going to move the third level. How Yodwa's confidence increased exponentially after his first attempt succeeded. He let go of the large stone in his hand and took a deep breath. His feet moved down and stepped on the third level. Looking at the second level of the Saint Suppressing Stone, which was a full circle bigger than the second level, how Yodwa's face was extremely serious. Immediately, the orange light on his body exploded violently. He gritted his teeth and hugged his arms on the third level of the stone. Rise! Following the roar, with a hung-long sound, the third layer's Saint-suppressing stone began to shake, leaving everyone shocked. However, the shock only lasted for a moment because in the next second, the third level of the Saint-suppressing stone didn't rise. How Uduo had failed. How was this possible? How can it be so heavy? I don't believe it. Rise. How Uduo felt that he had bragged too much. If he couldn't move the stone in front of Nalanli, wouldn't he be ridiculed? He tried again, but the result was that the third level of the Saint-suppressing stone still didn't move. How Uduo felt as if all the energy in his body had been sucked out. He was so tired that he sat down on the ground. Ha ha, you overestimate yourself. Get down here. Let me move the third level and open your eyes. Bai Lang laughed heartily at this. How Uduo glared at him and sighed. He shook his head and walked down. I hope that all the students know their limits and don't bite off more than you can chew. If you run out of energy, it will be disadvantageous for you in the second and third levels. Elder Wu stood up and reminded them. Elder Wu is right. It's my turn now. Bai Lang closed the folding fan in his hand and stepped on the ground. His body floated up to the high platform. Immediately, countless members of the White Wolf gang cheered. There were also many female disciples around. They covered their mouths with their small hands and looked at Bai Lang with admiration. Little Zhu, for you, I will challenge the fourth level today, Bai Lang said solemnly. He turned around and looked at Naransu, and this warm gaze immediately caused many female disciples to be dissatisfied. Their gazes towards Nalan Zhu were filled with jealousy. Naransu ignored them and looked at Lin Feng and Xiaogua instead. These Saint-suppressing stones are not simple. You have to work hard. I can only move the second level at most. As for the third level, I don't have the confidence. Let's see senior brother Xiaogua's performance. Lin Feng's face was full of helplessness. His strength was not much stronger than the muscular man Dan, who moved the second level. Xiaogua was different. Although Xiaogua's realm was weaker than how Yod was, he had the strength of a Saint-suppressing stone. Competing with his Saint-suppressing stone was his specialty. Xiaogua had the bull demon source spirit. I'll do my best, but don't have too much hope for me. I definitely won't be able to take first place. If only Big Brother was here now. In Xiaogua's mind, a young man with a white face and determination appeared. That young man's eyes were as deep as the night. No one could guess how much potential he had. If Qin Hao was here, perhaps he would try to challenge the 9th level of the Saint-suppressing stone. No, he would definitely challenge it. In Qin Hao's way of doing things, he would only take the highest peak. Humph! Not getting Naransu's response made Bai Lang very unhappy. He angrily turned his head and cursed in his heart. Not only was he cursing Naransu for not knowing how to appreciate his kindness, but he was also cursing Xiaogua. He had to move the 4th level in front of everyone to broaden Xiaogua's horizons and make Naransu regret. Qi transforming heaven and earth. 4th level move. Bai Lang circulated his profound sage power and released the aura of a second stage profound sage. He first blew into his palm twice. The gas he blew out was not ordinary. It was suffused with an orange light. It was an earth-rank cultivation technique passed down in his family. It could temporarily increase one's strength. Speaking of which, Bai Lang had the ability to challenge those of a higher realm. He was indeed a character. Moreover, his family background was not bad. Therefore, in the inner court, there were many girls who admired him and hoped to be favored by him. Crack! Bai Lang blew 2 mouthfuls of white gas into his palm, and his palm made a strange sound. Then, he placed it on the big stone of the 4th level. At this moment, sweat kept flowing down his face. Bai Lang's blood was also boiling crazily, as if his blood vessels were about to burst. Rumble! With a dull sound, the saint's suppressing stone of the 4th level moved under Bai Lang's palm. This scene caused all the disciples of the inner court to scream. Even the female disciples couldn't help but let out wild cheers. Moo! Bai Lang stuck out his butt. Because he used too much strength, he overdrew his vitality, causing his face to distort. But gradually, the saint's suppressing stone of the 4th level really began to move, including the 3rd level that even Hao Duo couldn't move with all his strength, the 2nd level, and the small stone at the top. At this moment, they were all lifted up by Bai Lang's hands. Bai Lang's legs also made a squeaking sound as if they couldn't bear the burden. But no matter what, he had indeed moved the 4th level. This scene immediately shocked everyone, causing them to be absent-minded and astonished. Strong. Too strong. Squeak. Lin Feng clenched his fists and looked at Xiaogua with a worried expression. Bai Lang was able to move the saint's suppressing stone of the 4th level with the cultivation of a 2nd stage profound sage. This was clearly an extraordinary performance. This person's potential was quite terrifying. Once the competition was over and the safety period of 10 days had passed, Xiaogua and the others would be in danger. In this regard, Xiaogua only frowned slightly. Then he relaxed. If it was purely a competition of physical strength, he wasn't afraid of Xiaogua. He could also move the 4th level. However, Bai Lang was only ranked 9th on the heaven list. So, how strong were the people in the top 5? This was what worried Xiaogua the most. Chapter 622. Bai Lang didn't take long to move the 4th floor. After 3 breaths, his face was pale. He only moved it to the height of his knees and then immediately put it down. Although he only lasted 3 breaths, his face was full of pride. He walked down the stage amidst the cheers of the crowd. He smiled mockingly at Hao Duo and then looked at Naransu with a meaningful gaze. It was as though Naransu would praise Bai Lang in the next second. However, Bai Lang miscalculated. Naransu didn't even look at him. I moved the 4th floor in an incomparably awesome manner, and she didn't even look at me. She really is a slut who doesn't recognize talent. Bai Lang angrily flung his sleeves. Talent? Ha ha! You dare to call yourself a talent? You're making me laugh my head off. Suddenly, a provocative voice rang out, startling everyone. Who dared to look down on Bai Lang? They all looked at the person who spoke. Big brother, you're finally here. Hao Duo said in surprise when he saw the person. This person was 7 feet tall and had a strong build. He also had a mole on his face, which was coincidentally right below his nose. There was also a strand of hair on the mole. He was Hao Duo's big brother, the leader of the heaven-shaking faction, Hao Youqiang, ranked 8th on the heaven list. When Hao Youqiang arrived, Bai Lang's eyes twitched. He didn't say anything because he knew that this person's strength was not ordinary. Big brother, Bai Lang provoked me just now because he looked down on you. You have to help me vent my anger. Hao Duo said, Don't worry. I could beat him up before and I can still do it now. It's just the 4th floor. Wait for me to move it up. Hao Youqiang rubbed a strand of hair right below his nose and climbed up the stage. He held the 4th floor with both hands and shouted loudly as he lifted it up. After 10 breaths, he also lifted it above his head. Whether it was the time or the height, he far surpassed Bai Lang. Instantly, the crowd was in an uproar. Everyone was amazed. Bang! Hao Youqiang let go of the 4th floor, then took a deep breath and walked down the stage proudly. He didn't want to challenge the 5th floor because he knew he couldn't move it. How about it? Bai Lang, do you admit defeat? Hao Youqiang said as he pointed at Bai Lang's nose. Then, he deliberately looked at Naransu proudly, implying that he was much stronger than Bai Lang. Regarding this, Nailan Zhu simply treated the other party as air. You're just relying on the cultivation of a third stage profound sage. When I reach your realm, I will definitely be able to reach a height above you. Besides, you're 25 years old this year, and I'm only 22. I have more potential than you. On the surface, he had lost, but in his heart, Bai Lang wasn't discouraged. You only know how to talk. Hao Youqiang sneered and immediately looked at Qi Xiaoguo and the others. Rookies, go up and show me what you've got. Are you afraid that you don't even have the confidence to move the first floor? Haha. Everyone laughed. I thought that the person who won the Rising Star competition was so great, but he's scared in our inner courtyard. You should go back to the outer court and train for another 2 years. The disciples of the inner court weren't very outstanding when they were in the outer court. Back then, most of them didn't have the qualifications to participate in the New Star competition. Today, they seem to have found a sense of superiority in existence. They ridiculed Xiaoguo and Lin Feng. You're going too far. Lin Feng clenched his fists and was about to go up. Who hasn't had their first time? Weren't you all cowards when you first came? What kind of ability is it to bully new junior brothers? Think about what you were like back then. Suddenly, a reprimanding voice rang out. The voice was mixed with vigorous Yuan Qi, and it instantly silenced everyone. It was an ordinary-looking dark-skinned man. After he shouted, he nodded at Xiaoguo and the others in a friendly manner. Then, he climbed up the stage. It's the 7th on the heaven ranking Han Man. Han Man has the strength of a 5th stage profound sage. I wonder if he'll challenge the 5th floor this year. The disciples discussed one after another. They seemed to be very afraid of Han Man. Although he was simple and honest, he had a very bad temper. He was one of the few people in the inner court who was a loner. Han Man had moved to the 4th floor last year, and it was very likely that he would challenge the 5th floor this year. Rise. Just like when Hao Yu Duo went up the stage, Han Man didn't directly challenge the 5th floor. Instead, he tried the 4th floor first. He wrapped his arms around the boulder and lifted it up forcefully. His movements were clean and nimble. Compared to Bai Lang and Hao Youqiang's difficult state, Han Man was obviously much more relaxed. This also proved that his physical saint power completely crushed the two of them. Rise again. There was a rumbling sound. Han Man actually threw the boulder of the 4th floor 30 meters above his head, causing a heavy wind to blow. Many people screamed in fright. He was indeed too strong. If Bai Lang and Hao Youqiang were to fight Han Man, they definitely wouldn't be able to withstand a single punch from him. Of course, this was only referring to his physical saint power. Even so, Bai Lang and Hao Youqiang's expressions changed greatly. They knew how heavy the 4th floor was, but Han Man actually threw it 30 meters high. This was simply abnormal. Han Man shook his head in response. He wasn't happy at all. After catching the boulder, he put it down and walked down the stage. It seems that with my current cultivation, it's still very difficult for me to challenge the 5th floor. He muttered to himself helplessly, but his eyes burned with even more fighting spirit. Hiss! The inner court disciples sucked in a breath of cold air. Han Man threw the boulder of the 4th floor 30 meters high, but he still didn't have the confidence to challenge the 5th floor. How heavy was the 5th floor's saint-suppressing stone? This new junior brother, my name is Han Man. I can see that you're like me. Physical saint power is your strong point. Why don't you give it a try? I estimate that you can at least move the 4th floor. You have to have confidence in yourself. At this time, Han Man walked up to Xiaoguo and encouraged him with a bold and unrestrained expression. Yes, as you said, I'll go and give it a try. Xiaoguo had a good impression of Han Man. He was a frank and upright person. Xiaoguo liked to deal with honest men. Bai Lang, Hao Youqiang, and his brother all sneered. Han Man was indeed a famous barbarian in the inner court. He actually showed goodwill to a newcomer. It was too degrading. He didn't have the demeanor of the 7th master on the heaven list. However, Han Man was too confident in Xiaoguo. He said that Xiaoguo could move the 4th floor. That was absolutely impossible. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Sayogwa, including Elder Wu, who wanted to see the strength of this batch of newcomers. Sayogwa, you have to do your best. Senior Brother Xiaohua, show them your strength. Senior Brother Xiaohua, you can do it. Na Lan Li and Lin Feng, as well as the other 5 disciples who had come from the outer courtyard, were all cheering for Lin Feng. Sayogwa was the strongest person in the outer court besides Qin Hao. This attempt represented their dignity. However, Sayogwa didn't move to the 4th floor as Hanman said. Instead, he stopped at the 5th floor. F***CK. Is this guy going to challenge the 5th floor? Is his head kicked by a donkey? Chapter 624. 1 foot, 2 feet. It reached the height of his chest. 3 feet, for feet. He raised it above his head. Rise for me. A loud bang resounded. Sayogwa's fist, which contained the soul of an ox, slammed into the 6th layer of the Saint Stone. The Saint Stone flew into the air, reaching a height of 200 feet. Oh my God, this kid is too abnormal. Is he still human? This scene frightened the inner court disciples below, and it also shook Hanman's heart. This was the ability to have a sore soul. He was fully deserving of being called a genius. Similarly, Bai Lang, Hao Youqiang, and the others' faces were incomparably distorted, and their eyes were filled with fear. Thinking back to how arrogant they had been in front of Sayogwa's courtyard for the past few days, the backs of the 3 of them were drenched in cold sweat. According to the current situation, Sayogwa could kill the 3 of them as easily as crushing ants with his bare fists. Whoosh! The giant stone fell, and Sayogwa caught it firmly in his arms. This move shocked the crowd once again. After all, it was easy to send it flying, but more difficult to continue. This undoubtedly showed that Sayogwa's true potential was greater. However, at this moment, Sayogwa had reached his limit. He had used all his strength to send the 6-story stone flying. Moreover, he did not continue to challenge the 7th layer. Just like Hanman, Sayogwa judged that he did not have the ability to move the 7th layer based on the strength of the 6th layer. Even so, the crowd was shocked into silence. When Sayogwa walked down from the highest platform, the crowd was so silent that it made one's hair stand on end. When did you break through to the 5th layer of the profound sage realm? Even I was kept in the dark, humph. As Sayogwa walked over, Nalan Li snorted with dissatisfaction. Her appearance was very cute, and it was obvious that she was very happy with the strength her opponent had displayed. Yes, Senior Brother Xiaohua. 2 months ago, you were just a 5th-level mortal sage. Today, you have advanced an entire realm. Isn't your cultivation too fast? Lin Feng was shocked. Hee, I'm sorry, but this is a secret between me and Master. Sayogwa rubbed his nose. In fact, after returning, with the help of Ouyang Hong, he had unsealed another layer of the demon body of Herculean Bull. Now, his demon body of Herculean Bull had reached the 5th grade and released a lot of potential. Reaching the 5th stage of the Profound Sage realm also gave him the strength of a 5th stage Profound Sage. A sore spirit is really a good thing, but it's a pity. Naransu shook her head. He seemed to feel sorry for himself, but also seemed to be sighing for Qin Hao. Qin Hao's strength was obvious to everyone. He only lacked a sore spirit. If Qin Hao also had a sore spirit, it was unknown how strong he would be. Perhaps he could even lift the 7th floor's saint-suppressing stone. Leader Hao Youqiang of the heaven-shaking faction, are you satisfied with my current strength? Sayogwa took a step forward in Hao Youqiang's direction, his eyes filled with majesty. The other party had mocked him for not even having the courage to challenge the 1st floor, but Sayogwa had sent the 6th floor flying 20 feet high. Don't be so proud. You just relied on the power of your source spirit to lift the 6th floor by luck. There are countless capable people in our inner court. Every single one of the top 3 senior brothers can crush you. Moreover, they can crush you as easily as stepping on an ant. So in the inner yard, you can't make any waves. Hao Youqiang took a few steps back in fear, but he still pretended to be brave, implying that Sayogwa could defeat him. But he was no match for the top 3 on the heaven list. Of course, Hao Youqiang's words were full of jealousy. He didn't expect Xiaowa to have a source spirit, and it seemed that the giant bull source spirit was unusually strong. More importantly, Xiaowa was only 13 or 14 years old, while Hao Youqiang was already 25. Whether it was in terms of realm or physical strength, he was inferior to the boy in front of him. Even if I'm no match for the top three, I can still crush you as easily as stepping on an ant. If you don't believe me, come and try. Xiaowa stared at him coldly. Hao Youqiang could only laugh helplessly. He also felt embarrassed, so he pulled his disciple Hao Yuduo into the crowd. Then, Xiaowa looked at Bai Lang. Bai Lang's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly lowered his head. Today, Xiaowa was an existence that he couldn't afford to offend. Okay, when you enter the inner yard, you'll be a member of the inner yard. You have to get along well with your senior brothers. But you did perform well today, so you should be rewarded. After the competition, go to the resource department to get 10 low-grade earth crystals. Elder Wu nodded. The outer yard gave the disciples the lowest grade of crystals as rewards. The inner yard was rich in resources, and they used earth crystals. It's a pity that you're too young. If you came 3 or 5 years later, you might have broken Yi Wuhan's record of 8 floors. Sigh, what a pity, what a pity. Elder Wu shook his head. When he said the words, Yi Wuhan, all the disciples were in awe. Yi Wuhan was recognized as the #1 super genius in Qiyang for hundreds of years. He was now the senior brother of the inner yard. When Yi Wuhan had just entered the inner yard, he had shaken the 8th floor of the sacred suppressing stone with one palm. He was so outstanding that he became an immortal legend. However, Yi Wuhan was already 26 years old at that time. In comparison, Xiaowa was absolutely qualified to be compared with Yi Wuhan. The only difference between them was the cultivation of those few years. The newcomer is really strong, but don't underestimate me. Tan Yong. 5th on the heaven list, Tai Long. 4th on the heaven list, Fang Jinchang. We'll show you what we're capable of. 3 people walked out of the crowd. Each of them had an extraordinary aura. They were the 6th, 5th, and 4th people on the heaven list, who were ranked above Han Man. Then, Tan Yong, Tai Long, and Fang Jinchang went up to the high platform one after another to test their saint power. They shouted loudly, but after the test, the 6th Tan Yong was the same as Han Man. He could only lift the 4th floor. The 5th Tai Long used all his strength to squat in the latrine. His face was full of veins, but he failed to lift the 5th floor. Only Fang Jinchang, who was 4th on the heaven list, could lift the 5th floor. However, he couldn't be compared to Xiaowa at all. After all, not only did Xiaowa lift the 6th floor, but he also sent it flying 200 feet high. The scene was extremely abnormal. No one had been so fierce for more than a decade. I'm impressed. It seems that I, Fang Jinchang, still need to continue cultivating. The 3 of them were dispirited. They were really impressed this time. You guys really need to cultivate. Even I feel ashamed for losing to a newcomer. While they were talking, a young man with a long sword on his back flew over from a high peak in the inner yard. He didn't say much and directly landed on the 6th floor. He shouted and swept his palm under his feet. The vigorous palm force triggered a monstrous yuan qi that wrapped around the 6th floor. Up. With a lift of his hand, the 6th floor that Xiaowa had to use all his strength to lift was lifted up by the young man with a long sword on his back. An absolute expert. Xiaowa's pupils constricted. It seemed that the real expert of the inner yard had appeared. The moment the young man appeared, he lifted the 6th floor with a single palm. His strength was quite impressive. Chapter 6:25. The young man seemed to have lifted the 6th floor effortlessly. He even deliberately let the 6th floor rise to a height of 250 feet. After it surpassed Xiaowa, he put the 6th floor back to its original position. However, he did not challenge the 7th floor after that. He probably felt that challenging the 7th floor was not enough. It was better not to ruin his own reputation. Senior brother Lin Pingji, who is ranked 3rd on the heaven list. He lifted the 6th floor with one hand. So cool and awesome. Are you blind? He clearly lifted it 25 feet high. Don't overlook the height. That's right. Senior brother Lin is the real expert of the inner yard. The disciples below were full of admiration. This person was Lin Pingji, who was ranked third in the inner yard. Senior brother Lin had helped the inner yard and finally intimidated the newcomer, Xiaogua. It was simply too satisfying. How could a rookie be so presumptuous? It's just the sixth floor. It's just SOSO. Lin Pingji had just stepped down from the stage when another person flew over from afar. His body was abnormally strong. He was taller than the muscular Neo Erdin by a head. His height was no less than 2 meters. As for his body, just by looking at his arms that were thicker than other people's waists and his thighs that were comparable to a giant elephant, one could imagine how terrifying this person would be if he unleashed his full strength. It's senior brother Yin Dashin, who is ranked second on the heaven list. Senior brother Yin is coming to show off. The shock caused by Lin Pingji had not yet subsided. With the arrival of Yin Dashin, the crowd boiled again. After Yin Dashin, who was ranked second, arrived, he smiled coldly at Lin Pingji with a hint of disdain. Then, he stepped towards the 7th floor with his huge legs. Midway, his eyes inadvertently stared at Xiaogua's face. The corner of his mouth was raised in a ferocious manner. Xiaogua could not help but be cautious. Being stared at by Yin Dashin, he felt as if he was being stared at by a poisonous snake. He had no enmity with Yin Dashin, so why was there a hint of revenge in his eyes? Don't be fooled by someone who lifted the 6th floor with one hand. It seems very powerful. In fact, that was his full strength. He deliberately showed a relaxed attitude. He is just a blind kid. Lin Pingji, aren't you tired of playing this trick? Before he made his move, Yin Dashin looked down at Lin Pingji and asked, You, Lin Pingji immediately became angry. Your Lin family's Bixia swordplay has been famous for a long time. This is known to all. However, the most powerful one is your family's palm technique, known as the heaven-ripping hand. When others fight against your Lin family's Bixia swordplay, they are often severely injured by the heaven-ripping hand. Just now, you single-handedly lifted up the 6th layer. He used the heaven-seizing Martin-ripping hand. Am I right? Rock Mountain teased. He deliberately exposed Lin Pingji's shortcomings and put him on the spot. So what? In the end, it's still my Lin clan's upper earth rank ultimate skill. In response, Lin Pingji put his hands behind his back and turned his head to the side. Other than being angry, he did not deny it. An ultimate skill is an ultimate skill. You make it seem like you don't use your full strength all day long. You use one hand to fight others. You also use one hand in the competition. In fact, that is your strongest attack. I, Yin Dashin, hate hypocrites like you the most. Hey, truly disgusting. Rock Mountain spat at Lin Pingji. Soon after, he arrogantly laughed. Seeing others unhappy makes me very happy. Exposing other people's dirty deeds is a great joy in my life. If you don't agree, then we'll meet on the 3rd stage. Now, Grandfather wants to move to the 7th layer. As he spoke, Rock Mountain began to make his move. His words shocked everyone. Finally, someone wanted to challenge the 7th layer. This was the first time this year. Moreover, everyone was filled with confidence in Rock Mountain. This was because he was the same as Xiaogua. He also had a source spirit. Rock Mountain's source spirit was a towering mountain. All right, I'll wait for you. I, Lin Pingji, swear that on the 3rd stage, I will let you experience the power of the heaven-ripping hand. Of course, I will also let you know the sharpness of my Lin family's Bixia swordplay. Lin Pingji angrily said. He had been publicly humiliated by Rock Mountain. If he couldn't redeem himself, then he wouldn't be able to stay in the inner court. 7th layer, get the hell up. With a wild roar, Rock Mountain's hands grabbed onto the 7th layer. One could see with the naked eye that there were specks of orange light floating under his feet. He was circulating his Saint Chi, and his aura was constantly rising. He released a shocking cultivation of the 8th layer of the Heaven Saint realm, which completely suppressed Lin Pingji, who was only at the 3rd layer of the Heaven Saint realm. At the same time, a gray phantom of a hill appeared behind Rock Mountain. It was his source spirit. Then it turned into an ethereal gas and drilled into the bottom of the 7th layer. Gotcha! There seemed to be something growing at the bottom of the 7th floor. This power was also pushing up the 7th floor. As the floor rose, everyone saw a small mound growing at the bottom of the 7th floor. The mound gradually grew larger. It was like a water tank, like a boulder, like a house. Gradually, it became majestic. It became a 10-meter-tall mound, pushing the 7th layer up by 10 meters. And this height was also Rock Mountain's limit. He was so tired that his back was covered in sweat. Beads of sweat flowed down his bare chest. Last year, I could only move the 7th layer. This year, I can lift it up by 10 meters. My improvement is godly. I finally succeeded. Ha ha ha. As Rock Mountain laughed, he dispersed his sore spirit. With a rumble, he put down the 7th layer and walked off the stage with unparalleled arrogance. When he walked off the stage, all the students below were petrified. They stood there in a daze. This was just too shocking. In comparison, Tsyogwa, who had sent the 6th layer flying, was nothing in front of Rock Mountain, who had lifted the 7th layer up by 10 meters. This was a true colossus. Damn it, how can Rock Mountain's improvement be so abnormal? Last year, he was only at the 3rd layer of the Heaven Saint realm. Lin Pingji felt a great threat at this moment. His courage to fight Rock Mountain crumbled. Hey, you're Tsyogwa, right? In the future, obediently be a lackey for me, Yin Dashin. This is an opportunity that I will bestow upon you supreme glory. From now on, you will soar to the heavens in the inner courtyard. Under my halo, you can call for wind and rain. Of course, in front of me, you are only a dog. Unexpectedly, Rock Mountain walked in front of Tsyogwa and pointed at his nose. His tone was so domineering that it didn't allow anyone to resist. This scene not only confused everyone, but also Tsyogwa. However, Lin Feng and the others had already clenched their fists in anger. Tsyogwa was the representative of the new students. How could he allow Rock Mountain to humiliate him like this? Even if he was the 2nd strongest in the inner court, even if he was in the 8th layer of the Heaven Saint realm. Remember, this is the last chance I'll give you. You have a boss called Qinhao, right? That goddamn poser killed 2 of my cousins, Mount Ibaraki and Rock Mountain. As his lackey, you'll be his lackey to atone for your sins. Rock Mountain fiercely stated the reason. When he mentioned his 2 cousins, his eyes became bloodshot. At this moment, he couldn't vent the hatred in his heart. Because Qinhao hadn't arrived yet, he could only choose to suppress Qinhao's brothers to give himself pleasure. Chapter 6:26. Tsyogwa and the others immediately acted as if they were facing a great enemy. They weren't Rock Mountain's match at all. Ha ha, a newcomer. Weren't you very arrogant just now? Why are you scared now? Why don't you try resisting Senior Brother Rock? Forgive me for being blunt, but I, Hao Youqiang, have admired Senior Brother Rock for a long time. Your muscles are so sexy and elastic. I want to be at Senior Brother Rock's beck and call. I also want to give up my position as the leader of the Shocking Heavens faction and let you be the leader. Only a peerlessly handsome man like Senior Brother Rock can become the leader of the Shocking Heavens faction. Only then can I become the faction master of the Heaven-Shaking faction. Senior Brother Yin, please accept me as your little brother. Also, I, Bai Lang's White Wolf Gang, also want to be at Senior Brother Rock's beck and call. Your muscles are so sexy, please take me in. Bai Lang and Hao Youqiang, who were hiding in the crowd, immediately came out. They mocked Tsyogwa's incompetence and then shamelessly flattered Rock Mountain. Who do you think you are? Scram! Rock Mountain slapped them. His surging yuan qi sent the 3 of them flying and vomiting blood. These 3 weren't worthy of being his lackeys. He wanted a lackey like Tsyogwa who had a yuan spirit. More importantly, he wanted to snatch Qinhao's people. Bai Lang and the others felt wronged. They cursed Rock Mountain in their hearts for not being able to see. Enough. Settle your grudges in private. Don't blame Old Man for summoning the Law Enforcement Hall for daring to disturb the heaven-ranking competition. Elder Wu stood up and shouted angrily. However, he was afraid of Rock Mountain's strength and didn't dare to act rashly. Even he wasn't Rock Mountain's match. In the inner courtyard, The cultivation of the top disciples had already surpassed that of the ordinary elders. Oof, I'll let you live for 3 more days. Once your safe period is over, if you still don't want to be my lackey, I'll kill you. Rock Mountain turned around and laughed loudly. He was extremely arrogant and impudent. Some of the inner courtyard students, including Han Man, broke out in cold sweat for Tsyogwa. After being targeted by Rock Mountain, he wouldn't have a good life in the future. At that moment, a figure suddenly appeared on the 8th floor of the high platform. It was as if he had appeared out of thin air, causing many people to cry out in surprise. Moreover, this person's body was completely condensed from water. His face could not be seen clearly, and only a ball of flowing water could be seen. He appeared to be special and powerful. Water split. Rock Mountain, who was laughing wildly, immediately stopped laughing. His expression was shocked, and his eyes flashed with fear. Brother Duan Shuailu is here. He's truly the #1 person in the inner yard. Duan Shuailu is standing on the 8th floor. Is he going to challenge the 8th floor of the Saint-Suppressing Stone? While the disciples admired Duan Shuailu, they were also shocked. Another expert, an unbelievably strong expert. Tsyogwa clenched his fists as he looked at the figure standing quietly on the 8th floor. The inner courtyard was indeed filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There were many strong people everywhere, including people with source spirits. At this moment, Duan Shuailu, who was on the stage, also had the original soul. Tsyogwa was very clear that Duan Shuailu's method of condensing his body with water was not something that could be done by someone who simply practiced water cultivation method. It was just like Tian Boguang, who had the fire source spirit, could turn into a fireman. Up. The figure standing quietly on the water suddenly gave out a clear and pleasant voice. Immediately, a stream of water turned into a water snake, which was as thick as a vat. It was shot out by this person and entangled on the 8th floor. Suddenly, an unprecedentedly strong aura rose in the field. Judging from this aura, Duan Shuailu was a peak Heaven Saint expert who was only half a step away from the King Realm. Buzz! As Duan Shuailu raised his hands, the 8th floor entangled by the water snake began to rise. 1 foot, 2 feet, the speed was a little slow, and it seemed that he was struggling to lift it. But this scene was far more shocking than Tsyogwa and Rock Mountain. After all, above the 8th floor, there were the 7th floor, the 6th floor, the 5th floor. Duan Shuailu alone lifted the Saint-Suppressing Stone that everyone had tested. However, when the 8th floor rose to the waist height, it finally stopped. With a bang, it fell to the ground like a meteorite hitting the field, shaking the whole ground. It indicated that Duan Shuailu had reached his limit. I still can't break Yi Wuhan's record. Damn it, what a pity. In an unwilling whisper, the water light dissipated, and a young man in brocade clothes appeared on the high platform. There was a lot of sweat on his cheeks, and he was panting quickly. The record that Yi Wuhan had set was to lift the 8th floor to a height of 100 meters, which was difficult to reach. Even Duan Shuailu, the #1 person in the inner yard, could only look at him in the dust. What was more, Duan Shuailu had used the power of the original spirit, but the result was still a big gap. Duan Shuailu, you have shaken the 8th floor, which is quite amazing. Go and have a rest. Elder Wu waved his hand and looked a little excited. After all, Duan Shuailu had lifted the Saint-Suppressing Stone of the 8th floor, which indicated that he was qualified to be the next cabinet disciple, and his future achievements would not be too low. As for Yi Wuhan's record, Elder Wu firmly believed that no one in the world could break it. After all, there was only one Yi Wuhan in Xi'an University, and in the whole world, only one Yi Wuhan. Not everyone could be compared with Yi Wuhan. Duan Shuailu, you have reached the peak of the heavenly saint realm. Looking at Duan Shuailu, who was slowly walking down the platform, Rock Mountain was shocked. He thought that his cultivation speed was very fast, but he still couldn't surpass Duan Shuailu. He felt frustrated. Of course, at this moment, facing Duan Shuailu, Rock Mountain's arrogance disappeared in an instant. However, Duan Shuailu didn't look at Rock Mountain at all. In his eyes Rock Mountain was a waste who didn't deserve to be his opponent, including all the disciples in Bin, except for Yi Wuhan. The rest were all waste. In Duan Shuelio's eyes, there was only Yi Wuhan. He is too arrogant. Looking at Duan Shuelio's back, Rock Mountain clenched his fists with hatred. No one in the inner yard dared to despise him like this, except Duan Shuelu. However, Rock Mountain was no match for Duan Shuelu. Is there anyone else taking the test? If there is no one else, let's start the second round. Elder Wu looked down, holding a small booklet in his hand, which recorded the results of the previous participants in detail. Brother, you still didn't make it. Did you really encounter an accident? Sayoga sighed. The Heavenless competition was a rare opportunity, which only happened once a year. After the previous test, there were many experts in the inner yard, which made Sayoga feel great pressure. Yi Shuihan had finished his apprenticeship, and Qin Hao hadn't returned yet. There was also a muscular man, Rock Mountain, who was his sworn enemy. It was a headache. Wait a minute. Suddenly, there was a calm call. The voice seemed to have magical power, which immediately attracted everyone's attention. To Sayoga, the voice was very familiar. It was full of nostalgia, which made his heart tremble. Almost at the same time, Nalan Li and the others also felt a long-lost aura, and they turned around at the same time. They saw a young man sitting on the wall of the inner yard. The young man was holding a piece of withered grass in his mouth, looking very relaxed. Chapter 6:27. From Yao Lao's words, Qin Hao had thought that there were some amazing people in the inner yard. After watching the top 10 contestants on the Heaven list finish their test, his excitement was gone. All the so-called geniuses were no match for him at all. On the contrary, Mountain Rock aroused Qin Hao's interest. This guy was actually a relative of Mount Ibaraki and Mountain Rock. How many mountains did the family of Mountain Rock have? Would another giant rock mountain appear in the cabinet after he dealt with the giant rock mountain in front of him? It was like poking a hornet's nest. He couldn't get rid of them all. As for the guy named Duan Shuelu, he was qualified to be Qin Hao's training partner. Of course, he was only qualified to be a training partner. He couldn't force Qin Hao to use his full strength. If he used his full strength, including Elder Wu, the people here wouldn't be able to defeat Qin Hao alone. Big brother, it's great that you're safe and sound. But Shuihan, Sayoga was both happy and worried. The moment he saw Qin Hao, his empty heart felt like it had eaten a weight. The pressure on his body suddenly lightened. Shuihan was safely rescued by me. The kidnappers died in my hands. Today, I'm here to report. Qin Hao smiled faintly. He jumped down from the high wall in a beautiful arc and landed in front of Sayoga. He patted his shoulder. Hearing this, Sayoga immediately breathed a sigh of relief. His depressed mood was completely released. His whole person became radiant. When the boss made a move, there was indeed nothing that couldn't be solved. Brother Qin Hao, you're finally back. Our senior brother is back. Everyone was extremely excited. The Outer Yard disciples, led by Lin Feng, had always worshipped Qin Hao like a god. Nalan Li was like a child. She excitedly jumped into Qin Hao's arms. Her eyes were misty. Her little face looked as if she had been greatly wronged. She couldn't stop sobbing. Don't worry. None of the people who bullied you can escape. Qin Hao rubbed Nalan Li's little head and looked at Bai Lang and the other two. He had seen and heard the whole process of the three people threatening Sayoga, including those vulgar and presumptuous words. You don't mess around. This is the inner court. Furthermore, the Heaven List tournament is ongoing. You'll be punished for breaking the tournament's rules. Bai Lang and Hao Youqiang instantly cowered under Qin Hao's fierce gaze. Perhaps they didn't know the other's strength, but Sayoga called Qin Hao boss. Moreover, Qin Hao himself exuded an unfathomable aura, which made the three of them extremely uncomfortable and fearful. Qin Hao, seeing this, Rock Mountain clenched his fist so hard that it made a cracking sound, as if his fist had crushed a human bone. If it weren't for the fact that they were in the middle of a match, he would have definitely rushed up and made a move. But since Qin Hao was here, he was not in a hurry. As long as he stayed in the inner court, there would be a day when he could take revenge. At this time, Duan Shuelu also glanced at Qin Hao indifferently, but he only glanced at him for a short while. After that glance, Duan Shuelu lost interest in Qin Hao. He just wanted to see what was so special about the person who could be regarded as the boss by Xiaogua, a Yuan Qi cultivator who had a primordial spirit. In the end, Duan Shuelu was disappointed. He couldn't see anything special about Qin Hao. Brother Qin Hao, that muscular man, is very powerful. He lifted the 7th floor and even threatened to kill you and make Xiaogua his dog. Qin Hao, you must be careful. If you really can't do it, let's all go back to the outer court and cultivate for a few years before coming back. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Lin Feng reminded him very cautiously, as if Qin Hao had already lost. Go back to the outer court? Qin Hao was startled. What a joke. If he was afraid of the people in the inner court, he would turn around and go back to the outer court. He would be laughed at by his junior brothers in the outer court. These people are not worth worrying about, Qin Hao said casually. Suddenly, Lin Feng and the others looked at each other awkwardly. They felt that Qin Hao was a little arrogant. After all, his opponent was an expert at the peak of the Heaven Sage realm. Although Qin Hao was Xiaogua's boss, and Xiaogua had broken through to the mysterious Sage realm in 2 months, the title of boss did not represent strength. No matter how strong Qin Hao was, he could never surpass Xiaogua. Xiaogua had a primordial spirit, but what did Qin Hao have? Therefore, at this moment, Lin Feng and the others shook their heads and were full of frustration. Huh? Who are you? Why haven't I seen you in the inner court? Elder Wu stared at Qin Hao for a long time. If it were not for the fact that he was wearing the red uniform of the inner court disciples, he would have kicked him away. The champion of the new star competition of the 4 academies, the top disciple of the Earth list of the Red Sun Outer Court, Qin Hao, a core disciple. Qin Hao shouted calmly and threw a piece of paper to Elder Wu. This was an identity certificate signed by Yao Lao, which symbolized Qin Hao's identity as an inner court disciple. Wow, he is the champion of the new star competition who has been in the limelight recently. He is also the top disciple of this year's Earth list of the outer court. He is nothing special. Compared with our senior brother Duan Shuelu of the inner court, his momentum is far inferior. When senior brother Duan Shuelu just came to the inner court, Yi Wuhin praised him face to face. Today, if Qin Hao came here, senior brother Duan Shuelu would not even look at him. Everyone, don't look down on this person. Xiaogua calls him Big Brother, so he must be extraordinary. Han Man was the only one who had a slight opinion of Qin Hao. Of course, this affirmation was also filled with doubt. Han Man really couldn't figure out what qualifications Qin Hao had to be able to make Qi Xiaogua send a 200-foot-tall genius from the 6th floor flying, and for her to wholeheartedly acknowledge him as Big Brother. Since you're also a person elected by the outer court from today onwards, you are an inner court disciple. After reading the certificate, Elder Wu nodded to Qin Hao and immediately asked, "Do you also want to measure your body's Saint power?" "Yes," Qin Hao responded. The purpose of coming to register was to get first place in the Heavenless competition. Then you go and have a try. I suggest you move the wash basin stone on the 1st floor first, so that you don't hurt yourself because of your lack of strength, Elder Wu said indifferently. Among this year's newcomers, he only thought highly of Xiaogua. Hey, the first place on the Earth list of the outer court. Get on the stage and take the test. Let us see what extraordinary ability you have. Everyone, guess how many floors he can move? Didn't you hear what Elder Wu said? Let him try the 1st floor so that he won't hurt himself. I think he can't even move the 1st floor. The inner court disciples roared with laughter. None of them thought highly of Qin Hao. In particular, Bai Lang and Hao Yuduo took the lead in jeering. Humph, you underestimate our senior brother Qin Hao too much. The 1st floor is too difficult for our senior brother Qin Hao. I think senior brother Qin Hao can move the 2nd floor. An outer court disciple next to Lin Feng said indignantly. Slap. Immediately, one of his companions slapped him and said angrily, Nonsense. Moving the 2nd floor is an insult to senior brother Qin Hao. I think he can move the 3rd floor. No, I think it's the 4th floor. In an instant, the 5 newcomers from the outer court were also noisy. Only Naransu looked at Qin Hao calmly. She knew that Qin Hao would definitely go for the highest peak when he did. Perhaps even Nailin Zhu herself didn't believe it, but it was her instinctive intuition. In fact, her guess was right. Sigh. Chapter 628. The high platform in front of him was 200 meters in length and width, with nearly 10 meters in height above the ground. The bottom part, buried in the soil, was unknown. The area of the 9th floor of the Saint Suppressing Stone was completely superimposed on the platform, which was also 200 meters in length and width. No wonder no one dares to try. It's difficult to move the 9th floor without the cultivation above the king's stage. 2 small flames flickered in Qin Hao's eyes. With his mind covering the high platform, he accurately measured the weight of the 9th floor with his spiritual force and red lotus soul fire. But he couldn't see how heavy it would be under the high platform. Hey, don't tell me you don't even have the courage to move the 1st floor? I didn't expect the first person on the earth list of the outer yard to be an unworthy person. Timid as a mouse, Qin Hao didn't have the slightest intention to step on the platform. The surrounding students thought he was afraid, which caused a burst of cynicism. My 2 cousins died in the hands of this person. It's really shameful. For this, Rock Mountain felt sorry for the dead Mount Ibaraki and Yin Wan Shan. The first place on the Earth list? Haha, it's a clown. Disappointing. Duan Shuelu, who had been quiet, made a rare comment at this moment. He used to be the first place on the Earth list of the outer yard. He used to be proud of it, but now he felt ashamed of it. He felt that it was too degrading to get the same title as Qin Hao. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but think of Yi Wuhan, the mythical creator who created the 8th floor of 100 meters high. In the whole of Qiangbin, only Yi Wuhan was worthy of Duan Shuelio's goal. Well, it's you. Only when I pull you up, it's exciting enough. Qin Hao finally moved, but he still didn't step on the platform to move the 1st floor that the inner yard disciples thought. He also didn't move the 9th floor that Naransa guessed. Qin Hao's powerful foot shook the ground. Rumble. Kacha, kacha. A sound that was like enormous thunder rolling down from above came from the soles of everyone's feet. Instantly, the entire inner court shook, and an incomparably vigorous energy spread out from the soles of Qin Hao's feet. Under his foot, the stone slabs of the inner court shattered one after another, and countless enormous gullies split open on the ground. Everyone was shaken to the point they swayed unsteadily. One after another, they fell down. The entire high platform also rose from the ground in shock under the power of this foot. Under the horrified expressions of the crowd, 1 meter, 2 meters, it rose with a buzzing sound. Like a mountain rising into the air, large chunks of wet soil stuck around the high platform continuously fell from the bottom. Just as Qin Hao had guessed, because he did not know how deep it was buried, the platform slowly rose for a full 20 breaths before revealing its true form. The part of it that was buried in the soil was actually 50 meters deep. At this moment, under Qin Hao's foot, it was completely shaken out of the ground. It was like a small island floating above everyone's heads. The black mass below was incomparably terrifying. My ancestor, this is 2F** King ridiculous. This is the first time I've seen the full view of the high platform. Even Yi Wuhan, who created a legend back then, could only reach the 8th floor. He didn't have the strength to challenge the 9th floor. Qin Hao even kicked out the entire high platform. It's fake. It must be fake. I'm dreaming. My eyes are blind. Who can save me? The shocking scene made the disciples of the inner yard speechless with horror. They were about to go crazy. Their minds were in a mess, and they howled indiscriminately like thousands of donkeys. At this moment, everyone, including Elder Wu and Duan Shuelu, looked at the high platform floating in the air like a castle. They opened their mouths as if they had been petrified, but they could not utter a word. Naturally, Qin Hao lifted the entire high platform and undoubtedly lifted the whole 9 floors of the Saint Suppressing Stone. It's far less heavy than I imagined. Let's go. When a 50-meter-high platform carrying the 9 floors of the Saint-Suppressing Stone had just floated up, Qin Hao turned around and whipped his sleeves above his head. With a crisp sound, it was like a whip waving. This mighty, castle-like high platform, carrying the 9 floors of the Saint-Suppressing Stone, rose into the sky like a meteor. With a ding sound, it turned into a flickering light spot and disappeared in front of everyone. On the ground, there was only a huge pit of 200 meters in length and width and 50 meters in depth. Silence. Dead silence. It was as silent as hell. Everyone present, including Tsaogwa, stared with their eyes wide open. Their eyeballs were about to fall out of their sockets. At this moment, no words could describe the shock in their hearts. This strange and quiet scene lasted for a full 15 minutes, and no one dared to break the silence. This was because until now, the 9 floors of the Saint-Suppressing Stone and the high platform that had been whipped away by Qin Hao had not fallen from the sky. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. At this moment, 10 powerful streams of light flew over anxiously from the deepest part of the inner yard. The aura of each stream of light was at the level of a monarch. 3 of them were peak Yuan monarchs. These streams of light landed at the position where the high platform had disappeared. Every stream of light dissipated, revealing an elder. These elders also looked at the huge pit in front of them, dumbfounded. Their mouths were so wide open that a stone could be stuffed into them. The degree of exaggeration was no less than that of any of the disciples. Who did this? After a long while, the elder with the strongest aura finally broke the extremely stifling atmosphere and pointed at the huge pit where the high platform had disappeared. "Oh, I'm sorry. I seem to have used too much strength. These stones shouldn't be too valuable, right?" Qin Hao rubbed his nose a little embarrassedly. There had been some mistakes in his calculations just now. He had inadvertently used the power of the dragon's soul and the indestructible samsara technique. The combination of the dragon soul and the god-grade technique had caused Qin Hao's physical strength to increase explosively to a level that even he could not measure. Therefore, Qin Hao could not guarantee that this strike would not shatter the Saint-Suppressing Stone. Of course, it would not fall without half a day's time. "It's you." The elder with the strongest aura looked at the junior in front of him in disbelief. The elder had mixed feelings and was extremely upset. How could an inner yard disciple be able to send the 9 floors of the Saint-Suppressing Stone flying with one strike, and even the high platform disappearing? Even among these 10 old men, only the top 3 of them had such unparalleled strength. Of course, if even the high platform had been sent flying, they would have had to use a low-grade heaven-class technique to be able to do it. And this kid in front of him, what kind of monster was he? Could it be that he was already a king stage master? But that was impossible. You've got guts. You actually sent the high platform flying. Such an opportunistic move, most likely because you don't have the ability to move the Saint-Suppressing Stone. Maybe there's a problem with the high platform that caused such a frightening movement. You sent the high platform flying, and it's fine, but even the 9th floor of the Saint-Suppressing Stone is gone. You should be expelled from the inner yard. No, expelled from Qiang University as punishment. Rock Mountain, suggest that you immediately chase this person out and cripple his entire cultivation. Rock Mountain was extremely frightened, but he felt that the high platform might not be simple. Maybe that damn Qin Hao had found a trick to send the 9th floor of the Saint-Suppressing Stone flying. That was why he did such a shocking thing. Well, I also feel that there's a problem with the high platform. At this moment, Duan Shuelu nodded. This was the only explanation that could calm the shock that Qin Hao had caused him. Duan Shuelu absolutely did not believe that Qin Hao's strength was above his. Chapter 629. Slap. Who would have thought that the old man with the strongest aura would angrily rush over and slap Rock Mountain's face, causing him to scream miserably and fall to the ground, spitting out 2 broken teeth from his mouth. This elder was the Grand Elder of Qiangbin's cabinet. His position was second only to the president and Yao Lao. "Grand Elder, why did you hit me?" Rock Mountain roared angrily. As the second on the heaven list, How could he stand after being slapped in the face? You deserve to be slapped. Do you know where the 9th layer of Saint Stones came from? They were cut from the high platform. All the Saint Stones added together are not as valuable as a single high platform. You actually described it as worthless trash. Don't you think you deserve to be slapped? The Grand Elder replied sternly. His heart was filled with pain. Boom! These words exploded in everyone's minds like thunder, causing their fear to deepen. Their faces twisted again. The 9th layer of Saint Stones was cut from the high platform. All the Saint Stones added together were not as valuable as a single high platform. Qin Hao sent the entire high platform flying. Heavens! Immediately, many people's eyes rolled back, and they fainted on the spot. BBB Big Brother. Are you still the big brother I know? Xiao was stuttered. He looked at the calm Qin Hao in disbelief. He felt familiar, yet strange at the same time. It was even terrifying. Of course I'm your big brother. However, the current me can't be compared to the past. Qin Hao faced Xiaogua and sighed deeply. After the trip to the wasteland, he had been reborn. His physical body could no longer be considered mortal. Qin Hao's physical body was formed by the spirits of heaven and earth. He also had 2 souls in his body. Just now, he had only used the power of the giant dragon soul. After adding the inextinguishable samsara art, he had easily sent the high platform flying. He believed that with the cultivation level of the people present, they would not be able to see through Qin Hao's methods. If the Grand Elder had been present, only he would have been able to see through it. But now, Qin Hao didn't want to reveal the truth. The competition had just begun, and the first round was only to test one's physical saint energy. The final winner was still unknown, and Qin Hao would not reveal his trump card. Based on the current situation, no one in the inner court was a match for him. Creak. On the side, Duan Shuailu secretly clenched his fists. His eyes were like torches as he stared fixedly at Qin Hao. At this moment, there was no longer any contempt in his eyes. There was only an extremely solemn expression. There was also a trace of fright that was hard to detect. He believed that other than Yi Wuhan, no one else in Qiang Bin was more outstanding than him. He had always acknowledged that only Yi Wuhan was worthy of being his opponent. Who would have thought that Qin Hao would appear out of nowhere? Not only had he crushed everyone in the inner court, he had even broken Yi Wuhan's super record. In fact, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he had left Yi Wuhan in the dust. Jealousy, strong jealousy, was written on Duan Shuailu's face. He said in a low and hoarse voice, "You are Qin Hao, right? You are qualified to be my opponent. I will defeat you beautifully in the 3rd round of the arena." After that, he snorted again. Physical saint energy couldn't completely represent one's real combat strength. Whoever had a strong cultivation method, a high realm, and a good fighting talent could be called a real genius. And those who had the original soul were the geniuses among geniuses. He believed that with his river water original soul, defeating Qin Hao would be a piece of cake. Duan Shuailu had absolute confidence in this. At the same time, he also needed to pay attention to Qin Hao's physical strength. At this moment, Duan Shuailu was no match for Qin Hao in terms of physical strength alone. I must prevent him from getting close to me. As long as I don't let him get close to me, he will definitely lose. Duan Shuailu made a good fighting strategy in his heart. In this regard, Qin Hao shrugged his shoulders indifferently. He could see through Duan Shuailu's mind with just a glance. Unfortunately, you can't compete with physical saint energy, let alone the strength of primordial qi. As for the original soul, sorry, I have twin original souls. Moreover, each type of origin spirit was a supreme existence. In this case, Qin Hao will be the first in the 1st round, but what about the saint-suppressing stone? Elder Wu is suddenly in a dilemma. You little Wu, you can go wherever it's cool. You don't need to host the next round of the competition. Old man will host it himself. The chief elder waved his hand to let Elder Wu leave. The implication was that there was such a monstrous genius like Qin Hao in the inner yard, so Elder Wu was no longer qualified to host the Heavenless competition. This, alas, Elder Wu felt very embarrassed, but he didn't dare to disobey the chief elder. He walked down from the viewing platform gloomily. At the same time, He stared at Qin Hao with resentment. At first, he asked Qin Hao to move the first floor. As a result, Qin Hao sent the whole platform flying. You're very good. You broke the record set by Yi Wuhan, and you're far ahead. The cabinet needs talents like you. I've decided to announce Qin Hao as a nominal disciple of the cabinet temporarily. After the Heaven List competition, if he still keeps the lead, he will become the fourth official disciple of the cabinet. In addition, he will be rewarded with 10,000 Upper Earth crystal stones. The chief elder walked to Qin Hao kindly, patted him on the shoulder with satisfaction, and looked at him up and down with appreciation. Damn, no way. He's just in the inner yard, and he's going to be promoted to the cabinet? Is there any justice? I, who Lao San, have been in the inner yard for almost 10 years. Now I'm 30 years old, but I haven't been favored by the cabinet. 10,000 Upper Earth crystal stones. He just passed the first round and got such a generous reward. It's more than 2 years of Senior Brother Duan Shuelio's monthly salary. In my opinion, the inner yard is going to change. Senior Brother Duan Shueliu is obviously not as good as this person. The first place of the Heaven List competition will belong to him. What's Senior Brother Duan Shueliu? When Brother House started, Duan Shueliu didn't deserve to be called Senior Brother Duan Shueliu. Now Qin Hao is our real senior brother. How dare you be disrespectful to Senior Brother Qin Hao? Believe it or not, I'll break your eyes. Senior Brother Qin Hao, I'm Ma Sandan. I've admired you for a long time. Your muscles are elastic. I'm willing to be at your beck and call. Take me as your follower. Senior Brother Qin Hao, I'm Neo Erden. Your muscles are elastic. I'm also willing to sacrifice my life for you. Please accept me into your gang. Many disciples of the inner yard were talking about it. These comments were like sharp thorns, mercilessly stabbing into Duan Shuelio's head. They were saying that he was not as strong as Qin Hao. It seemed that at this moment, Duan Shueliu had lost the qualification to be senior brother and the first place of the Heaven List. This caused the fury in his heart to surge like the sea. Some people like Ma Sandan and Neo Erden knelt in front of Qin Hao and unscrupulously praised him, hoping to be his follower. Now, even a fool could see the strength of Qin Hao. If they could be Brother Hao's follower under the guidance of Brother Hao, their future achievements would not be too low. This scene made Duan Shueliu, who was already angry, pinch his palms until they bled. The hatred in his heart was like a volcanic eruption, clashing with the sea. He was about to go crazy, especially by Lang, Hao Yuduo, and Hao Youqiang. When they saw Qin Hao's strength, they also wanted to be his little brother, but they didn't dare. Their cowering appearance was hilarious to the extreme, like clowns. Chapter 630. It's only 10,000 high-grade earth crystals. You guys can divide it according to your strength later. Qin Hao pointed at Xiaogua, then at Naransu, Nalan Li, and Lin Feng. 10,000 high-grade earth crystals were not very useful to Qin Hao. After absorbing them, he could at most advance to the 7th level Heavenly Sage or the peak of the 7th level. It would be difficult for him to step into the King Realm. If he wanted to advance quickly, Qin Hao needed heavenly crystals with more spiritual energy. On the other hand, Xiaogua was different. High-grade earth crystals could quickly increase their strength. The gap between them and Qin Hao was getting bigger and bigger, which would be very disadvantageous for them in the future. Big brother, are you joking? Xiaogua's eyes were filled with joy. Count me in. Lin Feng pointed at himself in disbelief. Yes. Qin Hao nodded. A gentleman's words were not joking, and he would do what he said. Furthermore, he admired Lin Feng's character. Haha. Thank you, big brother. Even with 3,000 high-grade earth crystals, Xiaogua had a chance of breaking through to the 8th level profound sage. Qin Hao, thank you so much. Lin Feng was so touched that he wanted to cry. It was such a blessing to have a big brother leading the way. The scene in front of them stunned everyone once again. Qin Hao gave out 10,000 earth crystals without batting an eye. He was too rich. Even the chief elder was deeply surprised. Earth crystals were incomparably precious to the students, and they were related to the speed of cultivation. However, the earth crystals belonged to Qin Hao, and he had the right to distribute them. The chief elder only cared about Qin Hao's personal aptitude. And this whole suit, it's a small gift for you for my trip. Qin Hao smiled and waved his hand, sweeping out a ball of light that enveloped Sayogwa's body. The light was sacred and dazzling. After it dispersed, a set of fitting armor appeared on Sayogwa's body. There were wrist guards, knee guards, battle boots, cape, and helmet of the Holy War set. Like a small general in silver armor, Sayogwa's slightly resolute face was awe-inspiring. F***CK. It's a Saint-tier armor, and it's a complete set. That's too much. It's too precious. I've never seen one in my entire life. It's piercing my dog eyes. If any one of them was given to us, we would have nurtured it into a family heirloom that would be passed down from generation to generation. However, Qin Hao collected the whole set and gave it to his younger brother. A large number of people from the inner yard had bitter expressions on their faces. There were also many people who fainted on the arena due to excessive excitement. Sayogwa felt like he was in a dream. Wearing the Holy War suit, he was so excited that he couldn't speak. This time, the 10 cabinet elders, including the chief grand elder, all widened their eyes and panted crazily as if they had just finished doing it with the opposite sex. Their cheeks were flushed and their blood vessels were congested. A whole set of Saint-tier defensive equipment, even if placed in the cabinet, was a top treasure. Qin Hao also gave it away without blinking his eyes. These old men suddenly had the idea of worshipping Qin Hao as their elder brother. "Brother Qin Hao, you're too partial." Nalan Li snorted with jealousy. Her eyes were full of envy for Sayogwa. "Haha, it's my negligence. Next time, I'll give you a small gift." Qin Hao touched Nalan Li's head and said a little embarrassedly, Brother Hao, please accept me, Ma Sandan. I had a dream last night. An old immortal advised me in the dream that I'm living for you. Brother Hao, please accept me, Neo Erden, as your younger brother. I'm willing to burn, kill, rob, and do all kinds of evil for you. Brother Hao, I have a sister. She loves you very much. Brother Hao, my girlfriend says you're very handsome. Senior brother Qin Hao, my name is Yu Ruhua. I'm ranked 15th on the inner yard heaven list. I've admired you for a long time. I only hope that I can be your accompanying maid. I'll serve you tea, do your laundry, and cook for you. There was also a very beautiful female disciple with a graceful figure. She stared at Qin Hao with a thirsty look. Her eyes were eager to swallow Qin Hao. Brother Hao, please accept us into your gang. We're willing to burn, kill, rob, and do all kinds of evil for you. Crash. At this moment, about 1,000 disciples collectively knelt in front of Qin Hao in shock. This lineup was more than half of the disciples in the inner yard. Except for the dean and the deputy dean, there was probably no one else in the entire Qiangbin who could enjoy the kneeling ceremony of 1,000 inner yard disciples. They could tell that not only was Qin Hao powerful, but he was also a very good person. He was especially protective of his little brothers and little sisters. On the other hand, they had never heard of Duan Shuailu giving anything to anyone. He didn't even give a piece of earth crystal. He was so stingy and stingy. Gang? It seems that gangs are quite popular in the inner yard. All right, I hereby announce the establishment of the Grand Alliance. After Qin Hao finished speaking, he looked at Sayogwa and Nalan Li. We're willing to join the Grand Alliance. The few of them shouted excitedly. They were very emotional. Haha, great. Other than you guys, Shuaihan is also a member of the Grand Alliance. Qin Hao is exceptionally happy today. He spoke in a forthright and heroic manner. Qin Hao, I wonder if I, Lin Feng, am qualified to join your Grand Alliance? Lin Feng asked carefully. There was a trace of shame on his face. He was afraid that he would be rejected by Qin Hao. Of course. Qin Hao nodded. Lin Feng was a good person. Alliance leader, please accept me, Ma Sandan. You've left us aside for a long time. And me, Neo Erden. And me, Yu Ruhua. Thousands of inner court disciples rushed to join the Grand Aura Alliance. Their shouts were so loud that they could topple mountains and overturn seas. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting apart. The powerful sound waves caused the Grand Elder's ears to rumble. Quiet, quiet. I'm sorry, junior brothers. The Grand Alliance has just become a new member. We won't accept any new members for now. We'll talk about it in the future. As for junior sister Ruhua, I'm sorry. I have a personal maid. Qin Hao flatly refused everyone's request. Judging from his tone, these thousands of inner yard disciples were not qualified to join the Grand Alliance. As for being a maid, Xing was thousands of times better than Yu Ruhua. Qin Hao understood women's snobbishness. Yu Ruhua was only willing to be a maid now that he was powerful. If he lost his power one day, she would definitely be the first to run away. She would abandon Qin Hao without hesitation. Sai, what a pity. I'm an elite disciple of the Scarlet Sun Inner Yard, but I'm not qualified to join the Grand Alliance. I'm also an elite disciple of the Inner Yard. I'm a mortal saint level 9. In a mortal world, I could even become a sect leader. Sai, we thousands of elites of the Scarlet Sun Inner Yard don't even qualify to be a member of the Grand Alliance. Everyone was instantly disappointed. They looked dejected and dispirited as if their lives were over. Qin Hao. At this moment, Duan Shuelu clenched his fists in anger. His blood vessels were about to burst as he gritted his teeth. Since Qin Hao appeared, he immediately replaced Duan Shuelu and became the focus of the entire inner yard. It was as if Duan Shuelu had become a worthless beggar that was ignored by everyone, especially when he saw thousands of people rushing to join the Grand Alliance. But Qin Hao didn't accept them. Duan Shuelu's jealousy rose to the extreme. Chapter 631. Facing Duan Shuelu's undisguised clamor, Qin Hao couldn't be bothered to respond. If this person insisted on seeking death, Qin Hao wouldn't mind giving him a coffin. Ahem, of course, it's just that. The head elder coughed awkwardly and was lost in Qin Hao's straightforwardness. He didn't come back to his senses for a long time. He first looked at the big hole left behind by the high platform, then looked up at the sky and shook his head helplessly. Many students hadn't taken the first test yet, but Qin Hao had blown the high platform and the 9-layer Saint Stone into the sky. Looks like I can only wait for the high platform and the 9-layer Saint Stone to fall and let the other students take the test again. I don't know when it will fall. The head elder took a deep breath. He wasn't worried that the Saint Stone would be broken. He thought that with Qin Hao's cultivation, even if his strength doubled, he wouldn't be able to destroy the Saint Stone. Yes, the chief grand elder comforted himself, and then his expression turned serious. He waved his sleeve, and a surge of yuan qi swept out from his palm, covering the huge martial arts field. Rumble. The earth shook and the mountains shook. The ground of the inner yard was suddenly divided into two, and the distance between the front and back became longer and longer. From the middle, a 100-meter deep mountain stream was formed. This ability to move mountains and fill seas shocked all the students. Saiowa and the others were dumbfounded. No wonder he was the head elder of the inner yard. He was at the peak of the king stage. At this time, under the split mountain stream, countless spring water gushed out and filled the mountain stream in an instant. It turned into a clear lake, as if a vast lake had appeared out of thin air. It was amazing. At this time, Qin Hao realized that the lake water had separated the thousands of students and the 10 head elders. They stood on the opposite side of the lake. The second test is to test your ability to withstand pressure. The head elder smiled and waved his sleeve again. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. 10 streams of light separated from his spatial ring and landed on the opposite side of the lake where Qin Hao and the others were. After the light dissipated, blue stones that were as tall as 2 people and 1 meter thick were revealed. These blue stones were very special. They were carved with inscriptions. When one looked at the stones carefully, one would feel dizzy as if it could disturb one's mind. There were 10 of these blue stones. Behind each stone stood a head elder, waiting for the test. What the hell? Saiowa scratched his head. He couldn't see through it. Let's just wait. Qin Hao's tea. At this time, 10 bridge boards from the opposite side. To be precise, there was only one board. The other 9 boards, they were. The second stage has finally begun. I wonder how many steps I can take to the other side this year. I don't care how many steps you take, but I want to see how many steps Qin Hao can take. Everyone take a guess. Is it Qin Hao or Duan Shuailu or Rock Mountain who walked the most? Back then, Yi Wuhan walked 180 meters along a thin, slippery, and bouncing log. He was only 20 meters away from reaching the other side. Unfortunately, after 180 meters, he couldn't resist the pressure of the soul-locking stone and unfortunately fell into the lake. Even so, he created a miracle. Even so, no one has been able to break his record of 180 meters. Don't tell me that Qin Hao will break this record again today. Not this time. My guess is that the one who walked the longest is most likely Duan Shuailu. Duan Shuailu's source spirit is a river. This test is in his favor. The surrounding students were discussing. Xiaogua and Lin Feng were confused, but Qin Hao could vaguely guess. Presumably, the head elder would let the cabinet students walk along these small logs to the other side. At the end of each log, there was a blue soul-locking stone. These blue soul-locking stones had the effect of interfering with spiritual power and numbing people's nerves. It was unknown what kind of pressure it would produce. In the end, whoever could walk to the other side proved that their ability to withstand pressure was stronger. Of course, Qin Hao's goal was to walk to the other side. If an ordinary student could walk 20 meters, they would be satisfied. Cough, cough. Students, as you can see, this is the second test. Then the head elder began to explain. In fact, it was similar to Qin Hao's guess. But there was one thing that was unexpected. The soul-locking stone needed someone to control it. So, behind each stone, there would be a cabinet elder. When the time came, these cabinet elders would use their magic to interfere with the students walking on the logs. The first test is to test your physical saint power. Within the same level, whoever has the strongest physical saint power proves that their qualifications are better and their future achievements are higher. The second test is to test your ability to withstand pressure. In fact, it is related to your spiritual power. Whoever has a higher level of spiritual power will be less pressured by the soul-locking stone than others. Of course, it is not about who has a higher level of spiritual power. This test is to test your ability to withstand pressure. If your ability to withstand pressure is strong and your physical saint power is high, your future will be limitless. You are a talent that our cabinet needs to cultivate. Do you understand? The head elder's mouth was dry as he finished speaking in one breath. In fact, it was to take care of Qin Hao and this batch of newcomers. The senior students were familiar with the rules of the second test, but Qin Hao and the rest did not know. Understood. All the students rolled up their sleeves and looked at the logs. Their faces were full of excitement and eagerness. The first test is to test your physical strength. The second test is to test your spiritual power. Only when your physical strength and spiritual power have reached a certain level will you be qualified to enter the cabinet. Qin Hao nodded. He had seen through everything. He could not help but admire the cabinet's strict method of selecting members. I will shout 3, 2, 1, and then it will begin. Ready, 1. The head elder raised his arm high. As soon as he finished speaking, his arm swung down heavily. Splash! The inner yard disciples were excited. Like a group of animals running out of a pigsty, all of them ran crazily to the opposite shore. Among the 10 logs, only the one in the middle was a huge wooden board that was 3 meters wide. The person in charge of supervising this wooden board was the head elder. These inner yard disciples were not fools. Of course, most of them ran in the direction of the head elder. After all, the 3-meter-wide wooden board looked safer and would not fall into the water easily. The other 9 logs were smooth, thin, and soft. Obviously, they were prepared for special disciples. In other words, they were prepared for the top 10 disciples on the heaven leaderboard. Only they had the ability to walk on them. However, once one stepped on them, these logs would move up and down. They were very elastic, like springs. In fact, it was very difficult. Ha ha ha, I Ma Sandan am coming. I want to walk 15 meters. I, Neo Erden, am going to walk 16 meters. I, Zhao Eru, am going to walk 17 meters. Everyone was like a group of donkeys that had escaped their reins and rushed to the opposite shore. Some of the students with bad intentions stepped on the wooden board and suddenly attacked the people beside them, throwing their fellow disciples into the water. In an instant, the sound of water splashing could be heard continuously. It was obvious that the female disciples who fell into the lake accounted for a relatively large number of them. Chapter 632. Xinhao, do your best. Let's see how you can compete with me in this round. Even if you fall behind me by 10 meters, it's your win. Duan Shuelu roared and rushed to one of the slender logs. He stepped on the slender log and moved 10 meters away in the blink of an eye. He sprinted to the other side of the river. His original spirit was a river. With the help of the lake water in the arena, he could greatly increase his resistance against the soul-locking stone. He had absolute confidence that he could break Yi Wuhan's record in this round. As soon as he made his move, it immediately caused a lot of people to scream. Physical saint power does not represent spiritual power. Let's see how Rock Mountain will crush you. Yin Dashin stared at Xiongque coldly. Xiongque's body jumped on a thin piece of wood like a bear. With the rebound force, his body jumped forward again. Although he was not as fast as Duan Shui, he was not far behind. If even I can step on your head, then I, Lin Pingji, will have the right to laugh proudly in the inner yard. Lin Pingji, who was ranked 3rd on the heaven list, sneered and also rushed to a slender log. His seemingly ethereal body movement followed closely behind Duan Shuelu and Rock Mountain. At the same time, the other contestants on the heaven list also made their moves. Fang Jinchang, Tai Long, Tan Yong, and Han Man all chose a slender log at the same time and moved forward carefully. Brother, which one are you going? Xiaowa asked anxiously. No hurry. Let's see. I haven't chosen yet. Xinhao stood calmly on the shore. He was not in a hurry to make a move. He was observing the other contestants. Then I'll go first. Xiaowa was a little anxious and went to the big wooden board in the middle. Naransu and Nailin Li were already walking on the 3-meter-wide wooden board like the others. Xiaowa was afraid that they would be plotted against, so he wanted to take care of them. Most of the people who fell into the water were female disciples. He was worried about Nailin Li. Then we'll go to... Lin Feng nodded and led the other 5 people from the outer yard to the big wooden board. They didn't have the confidence to challenge the thin planks. Perhaps if they walked on the large planks, they would be able to last longer. Xinhao looked at their backs and shook his head slightly. The large wooden planks seemed safe, but that was only on the surface. In reality, the difficulty might not be lower than the thin wooden planks. However, with Xiaowa taking care of them, he could at least guarantee that Nailin Li and her sister would not be plotted against by others. After all, Nailin Li was a girl. If they were drenched, they would lose their image. Then, Xinhao looked at Duan Shuelu and the others. Duan Shuelu, who ran the fastest, had already moved forward 30 meters. On the way, he glanced back at Xinhao. Seeing that Xinhao was still on the shore and did not move at all, Duan Shuelu sneered contemptuously. Why hasn't Xinhao acted yet? Is he afraid? A few inner court disciples stood behind Xinhao and whispered to each other, pointing at him and whispering to each other. Go! Suddenly, there was a change in the field. As more and more people walked on the large wooden planks, Xiaowa undoubtedly became the leader. He had already run more than 20 meters. At this moment, the first elder, who was in charge of the large wooden planks, moved his palms quickly, gathering his primordial chi and pouring it into the blue soul-locking stone in front of him. The blue soul-locking stone suddenly burst into a layer of turbulent blue light, which spread out like waves toward the opposite side. Xiaowa, who ran the fastest, was the first to be affected. After being surrounded by the blue ripples, he felt a faint tingling pain in his head, like being bitten by a mosquito. His footsteps instantly stopped. It was a pity that the blue ripples' interference towards Qi Xiaohua was negligible, and she was not affected much. However, he could speculate that the closer he got to the first elder, the more intense the blue ripples would be. Good chance. Attack. Kill this bastard. Bai Lang, how you do, oh? and Hao Youqiang were hiding among a large number of disciples. As Tsayogwa was the first to be affected by the soul-locking stone, they thought their chance had come. They could only blame themselves for being too impatient and attacking immediately. Xiao! 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 3 primordial chi flashed and flew out like daggers from a crowd. They were shot out by Bai Lang and the other 2, stabbing toward Tsayogwa and nailing Li's vital points. With the soul-shrinking stone in front of them, Tsayogwa would definitely fall into the water if he was hit. This was what Bai Lang and the others thought. Sneak attack, despicable person. The soul-shrinking stone had little effect on Tsayogwa, so he had already sensed the 3 primordial chi. He shouted, and the phantom of a giant bull appeared behind him. A majestic bull's roar suddenly rang out. Then, Tsayogwa's right foot suddenly stomped on the wooden planks. Demon Ox Stomp. Bang! The wooden planks shook and a powerful force exploded under Tsayogwa's feet. The 3 primordial chi that had been aimed at him were immediately dispersed by the demon Ox Stomp. No one knew what the wooden planks under his feet were made of, but they were incredibly sturdy and tough. Under normal circumstances, Tsayogwa was confident that he could crush any weapon that was not a sacred vessel with one stomp, but when his foot landed on the wooden planks, it shook so much that it hurt, and the sound of someone stepping on a steel plate could be heard. Even though the wooden planks were not broken, Tsayogwa's stomp caused quite a stir. The wooden planks began to shake violently, and many of the inner courtyard disciples who were squeezed at the edge let out wails. They were thrown into the lake by the shaking wooden planks, which meant that they had lost their right to compete. If Bai Lang and the others were not squeezed into the crowd and protected by their sect members, they might have fallen into the water as well. But more than 50 of their sect members had lost their right to compete. They had gone for wool and come home shorn. Damn it, that brat actually wasn't affected by the soul-locking stone. We shouldn't have attacked so quickly. Bai Lang and the other 2 clenched their fists in regret. In response, Qin Hao, who was watching from the shore, sneered. During the 4 Great Academy's New Star competition, Tsayogwa had climbed to the 10th floor of the demon's subduing pagoda with the help of the ox spirit, which indicated that his mind power had reached the 10th level. Just now, the soul-locking stone's ripple swept over, which was about the mind power of the 7th level. How could it affect Tsayogwa? Bai Lang and the other 2 deserved it. But it had to be said that after the blue ripple swept over, Qin Hao could vaguely guess how far Tsayogwa could go. This length would not exceed 180 meters. The closer they were to the Great Elder's position, the stronger the pressure would be. Nalan Li, who was following behind Qi Xiaohua, had a pale face at this moment. She seemed to be in great pain. It's my turn. Qin Hao took a deep breath and looked at the 7th wooden plank. He found that whether it was Duan Shuilu, Rock Mountain, or Lin Pingji, or perhaps Fang Jinchong, Han Man, and the others had intentionally avoided this plank and went to find other planks. Could it be that there was something wrong with the 7th plank? Qin Hao did not have time to think about it, because the other planks had already been taken by others. Only the 7th plank was left. No one dared to take it, but Qin Hao was not afraid. He floated up with his hands behind his back and landed on the 7th plank leisurely. Then, he walked to the other side of the river unhurriedly. Ha ha ha! Everyone look! Qin Hao chose the 7th plank. He actually chose the 7th plank. Is he an idiot? The person in charge of the 7th plank is the 7th Elder of the Inner Pavilion. The 7th Elder is known for his fiery temper. He is a 7th level Yuan Monarch who cultivates a special fire-based cultivation method. His primordial fire is extremely powerful. In the past, no matter who it was, anyone who dared to take the 7th plank would be roasted into a pig's head by the 7th Elder's fire attack, and then jump into the water crazily. Ha ha ha! Qin Hao has picked up a treasure. Some of the students who were not preparing for the 2nd stage of the assessment and were just watching the show pointed at Qin Hao and laughed hysterically. It was as if Qin Hao was the stupidest person in the world. I have to say that even I admire your courage in choosing the 7th plank. Hearing the discussion behind him, Duan Shuilu hurriedly turned back to look at Qin Hao. He was a little surprised, but more than that, he was laughing hysterically. Qin Hao is simply a fool. Ha ha ha. You're doomed this time. Rock Mountain was extremely happy. I thought that you would have an excellent performance. It seems that I have miscalculated this time. Of course, I, Lin Pingji, will also rise this time because I have finally stepped on Qin Hao's head. Ha ha ha. Lin Pingji was like a mad dog with a face full of excitement. Then he started to rush forward. Anyway, Qin Hao, who was behind him, was probably not more than 30 meters away. Although Duan Shuailu and the others were laughing, they did not dare to be careless. When the first elder activated the power of the soul-locking stone, the other elders also began to activate their power at the same time. Therefore, the pressure that Duan Shuailu was facing was gradually increasing. It was not as easy as before. Good boy, it has been a long time since someone challenged the old man's 7th plank. This time, you actually dare to come? I want to give you a thumbs up for your courage. Of course, I will also grant you the chance to fall into the water within 30 meters. If not, my name of the flame old man is undeserved. On the other side of the 7th plank, an old man with fluffy hair and a face redder than a soldering iron could not hide his excitement. He was really too happy. Just when Qin Hao stepped out 20 meters, the flame old man shouted loudly. The yuan qi around his body was surging. His palms were like being burned red, and they were flat on the blue soul-locking stone in front of him. Buzz! A blue blast wave attacked Qin Hao, who was walking towards him. In this regard, the other cabinet elders who were standing shook their heads and smiled. They did not know if they should be happy for the flame old man or feel sad for Qin Hao. After all, someone had finally started to compete with the flame old man. The sad thing was that no matter how strong Qin Hao's mental strength was, he would definitely fall into the water within 30 meters. This was almost the curse of the 7th plank. Although they were laughing, the power of the soul-locking stone under their palms did not weaken at all. Instead, it became stronger and stronger. The heavenless competition was extremely sacred and concerned the reputation of the cabinet. No matter which elder it was, no one would go easy on Duan Shuailu. Fall! On the other side of the 7th plank, after the flame old man swept out a blue blast wave, he also pointed at Qin Hao and said confidently. It was as if his words were an imperial edict, and Qin Hao would definitely fall into the water in the next second. Sorry, I have to disappoint you. Qin Hao casually put his hands behind his back. His footsteps were still neither fast nor slow. He did not even put up any defense or resistance. He just swaggered towards the blue blast wave that was sweeping towards him. Buzz! Finally, he was hit by the blast wave. However, in the next second, the blue blast wave dissipated. Qin Hao continued to walk forward with his hands behind his back as if nothing had happened. With just the pressure of a mere level 8 mental strength, you want me to fall into the lake? Who gave you the courage to be so arrogant, flame old man? Chapter 633. Qin Hao's action was undoubtedly a provocation to him. It made the 7th elder of the inner sect, the flaming old man, lose face. 7 waves of absolute death go. The flaming old man roared like a lion. He didn't think too much and used his best skill. In his opinion, Qin Hao would fall into the water if he walked 100 meters. He would also fall into the water if he walked 30 meters. It wouldn't change anything. It was better for him to die early so that he wouldn't waste his time. This was the flaming old man's side that was even more heartless than the other inner sect elders. He released his monstrous flaming vital qi. His hair stood on end, and his vital qi poured into the blue soul-locking stone. Visible ripples appeared on the soul-locking stone under his palm. Each ripple was stronger than the last. It swept toward Qin Hao one after another. When the first ripple came, it dissipated in front of Qin Hao's chest just like before. Qin Hao stepped out of the 30-meter range as he wished and broke the curse of the 7th wood. When the second wave came, Qin Hao stepped out of the 35-meter range. When the third wave came, he stepped out of the 40-meter range. The 4th wave, the 5th wave, the 6th wave, until the 7th wave, it didn't affect Qin Hao at all. He easily stepped out of the 100-meter range and finished half of the wood. How is this possible? The flaming old man's expression couldn't be more shocked. It was as if he had lost his soul. The scene in front of him was shocking. The 7 waves of absolute death that he poured into the soul-locking stone didn't affect Qin Hao at all. On the contrary, Qin Hao stepped out of the 100-meter range. It should be known that when the last wave of the 7 waves of absolute death fell, the mental interference was as strong as the 11th pin. Even so, it couldn't stop Qin Hao's footsteps. It couldn't even make him frown. How high was the level of Qin Hao's mental power? While the flaming old man was in a daze, the other contestants in the arena were in a terrible situation. First was the large wooden plank under the supervision of the first elder. The group of people walking in the front was 40 meters away. The people leading this group were Bai Lang, Hao Yuduo, and Hao Youqiang. Immediately, a blue ripple swept over and enveloped them. The 3 of them instantly fell into a state of confusion. Their heads felt like they were about to split open. They hugged their heads and howled hoarsely. Their eyes were bloodshot, as if millions of ants were gnawing on their brains. Their footsteps were obstructed, making it difficult for them to move forward. What surprised Qin Hao was that the person walking in front of Bai Lang was actually Lin Feng. Lin Feng had reached the 9th level of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, and his spiritual power was at the 9th level. The blue ripples that covered a 40-meter radius of the wooden plank were probably due to the mental pressure of an 8th rank cultivator. Therefore, although Lin Feng's speed was not as fast as before, he still persisted on moving forward. In front of Lin Feng were Nalan Li, Naransu, and Xiaogua. Xiaogua appeared to be calm and composed. However, Naransu and Nalan Li were like arrows at the end of their flight. Trapped in the ripple's interference, they felt as if their legs were tied up by 2 mountains. It was difficult for them to move forward. Their delicate bodies trembled. We seem to have reached our limit. Don't worry about us. Xiaogua, you should go. Nalan Li's body was surrounded by a faint, crystalline brilliance. It was a protective spiritual array. She was a spiritual array master and mainly relied on the protection of the spiritual array to resist the interference of the soul-locking stone. Naransu also urged Xiaogua to leave. Although she was grateful that Xiaogua had helped to watch over them, she did not want to implicate others in the assessment. You guys take care. Little Li, do your best. Xiaogua gave Nalan Li an encouraging look. He really wanted to go with the other side, but he was afraid that if he helped too much, it would hurt the other side's self-esteem. So he clenched his teeth and chose to go alone. In reality, Xiaogua was currently walking in front of the large wooden board. At this moment, his speed had decreased by half. You stepped out 50 meters. Good little brat, not bad. But the difficulty will increase from now on. Let's see how long you can last, and if you can create a miracle. The great elder on the other side smiled. His hands shook the soul-locking stone, and he increased his strength. So. In an instant, the soul-shrinking stone flickered and split into a group of wind blades, like a scimitar, cutting towards Qi Xiaogua, who was at the forefront, bringing out the sound of breaking air, mixed in with the blue ripples. These curved blades cover a range of 50 to 100 meters. It indicated that within this range, not only would there be spiritual interference, there would also be attacks. This greatly increased the difficulty of the assessment. Strong, bold demon body. Xiaogua was not afraid at all. He shouted and summoned the giant bull demon soul in his body. With the appearance of his soul, Xiaogua's defense was quickly strengthened. He was not afraid of the wind blades. He covered his face with his arms. The wind blades created sparks on his arms and made clanking sounds. He bravely continued to move forward. At this moment, the same scene was happening on the other thin wooden boards. Lightning, ice arrows, earth alls, light blades, colorful and dazzling. The 10 great elders controlled the 10 soul-locking stones and attacked one after another. Among all the attacks, there was no doubt that the flaming old man of the 7th wood was the most violent. Not only was he violent, he was also the first person to attack Qin Hao within 30 meters. However, the 7 killing waves were all suppressed and disintegrated by Qin Hao's emperor-grade spirit. The first scream was heard. It was Tan Yong, the 6th on the heaven list. He ran 70 meters and was attacked by a water blade. He fell into the lake and lost the qualification to compete. The second scream. The fifth place on the heaven list, Tai Long, fell. His score was 75 meters. Then the third, fourth, and fifth screams followed one after another. Bai Lang, Hao Yuduo, and Hao Yoqiang on the big wooden board were attacked by the Great Elder's wind blades when they were 50 meters away. They had to concentrate on resisting the interference of the soul-locking stones and dodge the attacks at the same time. The difficulty suddenly increased. Bai Lang and Hao Yuduo were unfortunately hit by two blades. Their bodies flew backward and slid into the water, and they stopped at 55 meters. As for the eighth place on the heaven list, Hao Yoqiang was still struggling at this moment. Obviously, he could not hold on for long. However, beside him, Han Man was following closely. Although he was injured, he did not give up. His eyes were fixed on Lin Feng, Naransu, and Nalan Li. Even the new junior brother and sister did not give up. How can I, Han Man, admit defeat? Han Man kept encouraging himself. On the other side, after Tai Long, Tan Yong, and Feng Jinchong fell into the water. The only people left on the thin wooden board were Duan Shuailu, Rock Mountain, and Lin Pingji. Of course, there was also Qin Hao on the seventh wooden board. Including Xiaogua, they were the top contestants in the entire inner courtyard. Similarly, they were the first batch of people to step out of the 100-meter range in the second round. All of them passed the 100-meter range. The 7 killing waves has appeared. Qin Hao, you will definitely fall into the lake. How can a newcomer like you defeat me? Lin Pingji? Lin Pingji saw the old man on fire take out his ultimate skill and was instantly happy. In the past, no one could avoid the 7 killing waves. Qin Hao was not an exception. The result disappointed Lin Pingji. The 7 killing waves did not work on Qin Hao. At this moment, the great elder who was controlling the wooden board saw this and shook his hands on the soul-locking stones. Suddenly, the thin piece of wood under Lin Pingji's feet suddenly bounced up. With a rustle, it abruptly shot up. Lin Pingji's feet slipped, and he lost his balance. Just as he was feeling proud of himself, he fell into the water first. Damn, how did this happen? Lin Pingji's head popped out of the water, and he wiped the water off his face. His face was extremely bitter. He thought that Qin Hao would stop at 30 meters, but in the end, you can be proud, but don't forget yourself. Congratulations, you got a good result in the 100-meter test. Qin Hao clasped his hands behind his back and walked past Lin Pingji with a carefree expression, continuing to move forward. After this step, he left Lin Pingji behind in front of him. Damn it, damn it. Lin Pingji's angry and unwilling roar came from behind. He had level 10 spiritual power, and if nothing went wrong, he could still move forward about 10 meters. His hands kept beating the water to vent his anger. His wish to step on Qin Hao's head had failed. However, what kind of trump card did Qin Hao use to ignore the old man on fire's 7 killing waves? Lin Pingji did not believe that Qin Hao's spiritual power was higher than his. Interesting, but you can't surpass me. At this time, Qin Hao was already 10 meters behind Yin Dashin. Yin Dashin jumped around and jumped 110 meters in front of the wooden board. Is that so? Qin Hao used his heaven-level technique, and his feet stepped on the water and wind. He suddenly exerted force, and almost as soon as Yin Dashin finished speaking, he was already on the same level as his opponent, running neck and neck. Damn it, don't you dare. Yin Dashin's heart immediately reverberated with the thousands of alpacas of the prairie. How could he be overtaken by Qin Hao? Steady as a mountain, solid in all directions. With a roar, Yin Dashin had no choice but to use his source soul. In fact, even if there was no pressure from Qin Hao, he would have to use his source soul. The wooden board under his feet was the same as Lin Pingji's. It was also jumping randomly, and he had to use his source soul to suppress it. Otherwise, Yin Dashin could not continue to jump safely. Wong. An earthy yellow energy spread out from Rock Mountain's body. Within this energy, an illusory mountain that seemed to be thousands of feet tall appeared and landed on the thin wood under his feet. It immediately suppressed the violent thin wood until it was as obedient as a grandson. "Haha, I have a sore soul. Let's see how you can compete with me." "What?" Yin Dashin suppressed the wooden board with one move. Just as he was feeling happy, he looked again and saw that Qin Hao was already 10 meters in front of him. He did not know when, but Qin Hao had already overtaken him. At this moment, he was chasing closely behind Duan Shuailu. "Fuck!" Yin Dashin was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He had an 11th grade spiritual power and a sore soul, so he could stabilize his mind and suppress the wooden board. What kind of capital did Qin Hao rely on? He could easily glide on the wooden board. His body movement was incomparably elegant, just like his ancestors flying. Yin Dashin was not satisfied. "This is the end for you." On the other side of Yin Dashin, an old man's eyes narrowed. He increased the power of his palm and controlled the soul-locking stone to shoot out thousands of blue light. It was like a tsunami erupting. With a wung sound, it swept over. Boom! The blue light hit Yin Dashin's chest. After this power entered his body, it went straight to his brain. Yin Dashin's skull was almost opened, making him lose his mind and let out a wild howl. The source soul that had just been summoned collapsed and dissipated into smoke. Then, the wooden board under his feet bounced. Put on! Yin Dashin flew 100 meters high and heavily fell into the lake. The result was 110 meters. Humph, 7th Elder. How long are you going to be absent-minded? Are you really going to let Qin Hao win? In the range of 130 meters, Duan Shuailu shouted to the shore. Qin Hao was right behind him, making Duan Shuailu and Yin Dashin feel a strong sense of crisis. At this moment, it was all because the 7th Elder was absent-minded. It seemed that he had not recovered from the failure of the 7 killing waves. What Duan Shuailu needed to do was to wake up the confused 7th Elder. "Oh, when did Qin Hao jump to 120 meters? Why didn't the wooden board under my control jump?" The 7th Elder shouted anxiously on the shore. Seeing that Qin Hao was flying over, he was finally awakened by Duan Shuailu's shout. Chapter 634. It doesn't matter. I'll make it jump now. The flaming old man gritted his teeth and made up his mind. He stepped on the ground heavily. The soul-locking stone was shaken. The 7th wood felt it and immediately jumped up and down, swinging around like a spring. This time, Qin Hao must fall into the water. This was the confidence of the 7th Patriarch. When he stepped into the range of 120 meters, the interference power of the soul-locking stone could be increased to the 12th level. With the 12th level interference power and the large swinging of the fine wood, if Qin Hao did not fall into the water, then the 7th Patriarch was simply a dog. But his view was broken again. Qin Hao's posture was still elegant, as if he was walking on the ground. With the swinging of the fine wood, he felt as if he was walking on the waves. He seemed to be at ease with his hands clasped behind his back. From the beginning to the end, there was not the slightest ripple in his eyes. He had always been calm and collected. He did not see Qin Hao use any special methods, nor did he see him show any amazing spiritual power. He only used a set of strange footwork to subdue the flaming old man. This scene could be described as shocking. This guy is too evil. Damn it. Duan Shuailu finally felt the great pressure. His back was dripping with sweat. Qin Hao seemed to have no limit. His performance was unfathomable. Duan Shuailu decided not to pay attention to him. He needed to focus on sprinting. He must open the distance between him and Qin Hao as soon as possible, because he once said that if Qin Hao was 10 meters behind him, Duan Shuailu would admit that he was the loser. He could not let himself slap his own face. But at present, Duan Shuailu had already slapped his own face. At the beginning, Qin Hao stood on the shore indifferently. Duan Shuailu showed contempt for him. In the blink of an eye, he surpassed Lin Pingji and suppressed the mountain. Now, he was firmly behind Duan Shuailu. Qin Hao was as evil as a ghost, which made Duan Shuailu panic and embarrassed. He decided to use the power of his original soul. At this moment, the other contestants' matches were almost over. On the big wooden board, Qi Xiaohua faced the wind blades and moved forward for more than 120 meters. In the end, she couldn't resist anymore, so she used her trump card and absorbed the bull's soul into her body. Relying on the super strong defense after the transformation, she moved forward another 50 meters with difficulty. Finally, she reached a super long distance of 170 meters. He was left far behind. He was so tired that he was paralyzed on the ground. The result of 170 meters was the current first place, but that was only for now. Nailin Li and her sister, Nailin Zhu, had great perseverance. Under the protection of the spirit array, the two of them persisted for 120 meters before collapsing to the ground. This caused a small commotion and also surprised the head elder. This could be considered a small miracle in the inner courtyard. 90 meters. Hao Youqiang. After being exhausted, the crowd focused their attention on Duan Shuailu and Qin Hao, who were still in the match. Duan Shuailu was more focused on because he had already awakened the great river source spirit in his body. In an instant, the lake water around the second, what he was walking on, began to churn. The lake water within 5 meters of him seemed to be boiling, with a lot of hot bubbles popping out. The great river behind him suppressed the interference of the soul-locking stone on the other side. Taking this opportunity, Duan Shuailu roared and raised his hands above his head. "Absorb the soul into my body." Hua! His body exploded into a puddle of water. As the water dissipated, his body turned into a transparent figure. This figure was extremely nimble. It reduced his weight and increased his curvature. Like an arrow, he flashed and pierced through the soul-locking stone's blue wave barrier. He charged forward as fast as lightning. Nothing. He rushed to the range of 170 meters. Then, he surpassed Xiaowa's result. At this moment, Duan Shuailu's transparent figure stopped. His speed dropped instantly. With the water splashing, he revealed his real body and gasped for breath. "Only 10 meters. Even if I have to crawl, I will break Yi Wuhan's record." He let out a hoarse roar. His legs trembled as he crawled. His hands were like pliers, firmly grasping the thin wood. No matter how the thin wood shook wildly, it did not shake him off. He was like a maggot climbing on the thin wood, slowly crawling forward. Every time he moved forward, his pupils became bigger and his forehead was dripping with sweat. He fell into the lake. This is too inspiring. Duan Shuailu is really extraordinary. Come on, senior brother Duan. You are still the Prince Charming in my heart. 5 meters left. Hold on. Break Yi Wuhan's record for our inner court. The other disciples were excited. They could not help admiring him, so they shouted in unison. These hot-blooded shouts immediately gave Duan Shuailu endless strength. He roared in his heart, "Look, I, Duan Shuailu, am still the first in the inner court. No one can shake my position. No one can, not even the heavens." 178 meters, 179 meters, 180 meters. He broke it. Senior brother Duan Shuailu broke Yi Wuhan's record and created a record of 1,801 millimeters. His fingernails are relatively long. The crowd counted silently, and then they began to cheer together. "Ha ha! I, Duan Shuailu, finally broke the record. I created 1801 millimeters. Yi Wuhan from the cabinet, did you see that? Did you see his ancestors' fingernails? I'm better than you." At this moment, Duan Shuailu clenched the thin wood, and he was so excited that he suddenly burst into tears. His efforts, his cultivation, and the hardships he had suffered finally paid off. "Oh, sorry. You broke Yi Wuhan's record, but you didn't break Qin Hao's record. Since you are exhausted, this is the end. Just lie down." A very indecent voice came from behind. Then, Duan Shuailu saw Qin Hao with his hands behind his back. Qin Hao's graceful body movement passed the record of 1801 millimeters that he had set. Qin Hao was still calm. At this moment, he even took the time to look back and smile at Duan Shuailu, just like how Duan Shuailu looked back and sneered at Qin Hao at the beginning. His eyes were full of contempt. Puff! Duan Shuailu couldn't hold back the blood. His eyes turned black, and his hand holding the thin wood loosened. His body fell into the lake. His heart and dignity were broken. He used his soul, exhausted all his strength, and did not hesitate to break Yi Wuhan's record at the cost of crawling. He even created a new record. In this way, under Qin Hao's relaxed and cruel pace, he was suppressed by the cold and ruthless counterattack. However, Qin Hao was not as ecstatic as Duan Shuailu. He even didn't take it seriously. He still moved forward with his hands behind his back. Although he was moving forward, there was finally a trace of seriousness on his face. At this time, the blue interference coming from the front had reached the 13th level. It was equivalent to the limit of the 13th floor that Qin Hao had climbed in the suppressing demon tower. Of course, it was just the previous limit. Now Qin Hao was stronger than before. As his body became stronger and his realm deepened, the spiritual power he could release at will was of a higher level. As for how high it was, Qin Hao couldn't guarantee, so Qin Hao decided to give it a try. Damn, no way. Qin Hao also broke Yi Wuhan's record. Not only did he break Yi Wuhan's record, but he also surpassed Duan Shuailu. Duan Shuailu was so angry that he vomited blood. Qin Hao didn't mean to stop. Not only did he not stop, but his body movement is still as cool as before. This person is a monster. Chapter 635. That's right. Perhaps it was because he used too much strength, but a sharp-eyed disciple noticed that under the flaming old man's palm, the seventh stone began to crack. With every step Qin Hao took, more and more cracks appeared, and there were already signs of the stone breaking. Old Seven, stop right now. Stop right now. The first elder cried out anxiously when he saw the situation. If the seventh elder and Qin Hao fought and caused the soul-locking stone to disintegrate, it would be terrible. How can I stop? I absolutely cannot lose to this brat. Otherwise, where will I, the seventh elder, put my face? Qin Hao, get into the lake. The seventh elder was in a frenzy. He had completely forgotten that this was a competition between the inner courtyard students. He spontaneously believed that it was a fight between him and Qin Hao. He, the seventh elder, definitely could not lose to this young lad before him. Fire-flicking divine skill, go. Level 15 spiritual power, go. I will definitely make Qin Hao fall into the lake to vent my anger. The seventh elder was unable to extricate himself from the fight with Qin Hao. He forcefully increased the essence energy in his dantian and poured it into the soul-locking stone. Buzz! The soul-locking stone burst forth with the fiercest blue light ever. The blue light carried a power that could topple mountains and overturn seas and destroy everything. It swept towards Qin Hao like a raging wind. At the same time, the seventh elder continuously flicked flames from his right middle finger. These flames seemed small, but the power they contained was extremely terrifying. He was an inner courtyard elder with the cultivation of a level 7 Yuan Monarch, yet he was actually fighting with his own student. If each flame hit someone, even someone as strong as Broken Flow would explode into pieces. This was no longer a competition. It was a murder. All the inner courtyard students broke out in cold sweat for Qin Hao. Level 15 spiritual power? Insignificant skill. Qin Hao was fearless as he brazenly faced the attack. The moment the blue light swept over, the dragon soul in Qin Hao's body was awakened. A layer of golden dragon scales suddenly appeared on the surface of Qin Hao's body, emitting a dazzling light. Qin Hao's physical strength increased tremendously at this moment. His emperor-grade spiritual power also reached its limit. Wong. There is also a ripple visible to the naked eye that spread out in front of Qin Hao's chest and collided with the blue light in front of him. Instantly, an earth-shattering explosion resounded in the inner courtyard. Waves after waves of water shot up into the sky from the wide lake, and rain fell from the sky. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qin Hao used the water wind steps and nimbly dodged the flame net that the seventh elder shot at him. The tip of his foot tapped on the thin wood, and his body steadily landed on the shore. There was not a single inner yard student on the shore. There were only 10 soul-locking stones and 10 lofty inner yard elders. Qin Hao was the only disciple. When Qin Hao's footsteps landed, the 10 soul-locking stones became 9. The 7th stone, controlled by the flaming old man, could no longer withstand the pressure of his yuan qi. With a loud explosion, it exploded into pieces and the treasure turned into trash. At this moment, the 7th elder fell to the ground without a care for his image. In front of Qin Hao, he fell into a daze. Silence. The scene fell silent again. After the battle between Qin Hao and the 7th elder, everyone widened their eyes and mouths in shock. The shock in their eyes was comparable to when Qin Hao sent the entire high platform flying in the first round. Broken. The soul-locking stone exploded the moment Qin Hao stepped on the shore. Even the 7th elder fell to the ground in defeat. It seems that he was at a disadvantage in the battle with Qin Hao. Oh my God, how high is Qin Hao's spiritual strength? He shattered the soul-locking stone and knocked the 7th elder down. What was the golden light that flashed on Qin Hao's body just now? I didn't see it clearly. It was too dazzling. A large number of students' legs trembled. The moment the dragon scale appeared, they had the urge to kneel down and submit. Thinking about it, that should be Qin Hao's trump card. As for what it was exactly, no one could see through it. It seemed mysterious and profound. Regardless, this time, Qin Hao had finally forced out a trace of his true strength. However, the price he paid was too terrible. He shattered a soul-locking stone and lost the 7th elder's face. As expected of Big Brother, his strength can't be measured by ordinary people's standards. His performance always exceeds everyone's expectations. Sayo will lay on the wooden plank powerlessly. Once again, he bowed and gasped in admiration. He used all his skills. Even when he absorbed his soul into his body, he could only withstand the spiritual pressure of a rank 13 and stopped at 170 meters. In his opinion, Qin Hao's goal should be to break the record set by Yi Wuhan. However, who would have thought that Qin Hao would shatter the soul-locking stone and make the 7th elder lose face and be forced to the ground? Brother Qin Hao is too strong. He won. After recovering from the shock, Nailin Li was the first to cheer excitedly. Suddenly, the cheers spread like a plague, instantly stirring up the crowd. A tsunami of cheers sounded in the inner yard. After Yi Wuhan, Qin Hao had once again set a new record in the inner yard. It was also a new and supreme record. Perhaps no one would be able to break this record in the next 1,000 years. Who could be strong enough to shatter the soul-locking stone? Alas, the first place of the second round, Qin Hao. At this point, the chief elder had no choice but to announce the result of the competition. However, when he saw the shattered blue pieces on the ground, his heart was in pain. The 7th elder was like a swordsman who had lost a sword battle. He looked at Qin Hao and humbly asked for advice. Boy, can you tell old man how high the spiritual grade you just released was? Haha, it's only rank 18. It's not worth mentioning. Qin Hao answered truthfully with his hands behind his back. When dragon scales appeared on the surface of his body, the endurance of his body was just enough to adapt to the strength of rank 18 spiritual grade. Shattering a rank 15 soul-locking stone was not a problem at all. Rank 18. When the 7th elder heard this, his heartbeat sped up. He quickly covered his chest with his hand, and his eyes rolled up in excitement. The 3 words, rank 18, exploded in the field like a bomb, causing a great uproar. Looking at the whole of Qiangbin, no one could have a higher spiritual grade than Qin Hao. Yi Wuhan could not, the rest of the cabinet could not, and Duan Shuailu could not. Rank 18, this was the highest spiritual grade among the disciples of Qi Yang in hundreds of years. Ha. Good. We want this disciple of yours. You don't need to be in the top 3 in the 3rd round. As long as you are in the top 10, you will become a new member of the cabinet. The chief elder's decadence was swept away. Shattering 1 soul-locking stone was nothing. Shattering 10 soul-locking stones in exchange for a disciple with rank 18 spiritual grade was a great deal. And the condition he offered to Qin Hao was that as long as he was in the top 10, he would become a disciple of the cabinet. This was undoubtedly the first precedent of selecting a disciple of the cabinet. In the past, no matter who entered the cabinet, they had to be in the top 3 in the third round of the martial arts competition. You have rank 18 spiritual grade, and your physical saint force is so amazing. Old man's defeat is not undeserved. The new generation excels the old, and each generation is stronger than the previous. I believe that you are more excellent than Yi Wuhin in the cabinet. In the future, you can completely replace him and become the spokesperson of the whole Qiangbin. The seventh elder was full of praise. It seemed that it was his honor to be defeated by a genius like Qin Hao. The person who can replace Yi Wuhin can only be me, Duan Shuelu. Qin Hao, you and I are absolutely irreconcilable. Chapter 636. Not to mention in Qiangbin, in the 4 academies, and even the land of Western Liang, a level 18 spiritual strength could be regarded as the most outstanding one. If Qin Hao was placed in the richest East continent, his aptitude could be rated as first class. As time passed, the gap between him and Duan Shuelu would be wider and wider. At that time, it would be difficult to kill Duan Shuelu or even be killed by him. Therefore, Qin Hao could not be allowed to rise. He had to be strangled in the cradle. Irreconcilable. You said it once in the first stage, and now you say it again. I have to advise you that those who used to be my irreconcilable enemies are all dead. Qin Hao naturally did not take a level 9 heavenly saint seriously. However, Duan Shuelu provoked him again and again, so he could not be presumptuous. Cut the crap. Do you dare to sign the life and death contract and fight with me in the arena? The living will enter the cabinet. The dead will be reduced to rubble. Duan Shuelu jumped up from the lake. At this moment, water flowed on his body and absorbed the water. His clothes dried automatically. He said confidently, "Why not?" Qin Hao flicked his sleeves and replied coldly. He could not help sneering in his heart. It turned out that Duan Shuelu's real intention was to rob him of his place in the cabinet. This person was narrow-minded and narrow-minded. He was the kind of villain who could not bear to see others stronger than himself. And me, Qin Hao, do you dare to sign the life and death contract with me, Rock Mountain? Rock Mountain clenched his fists and walked to the shore. He said in a lifeless voice, "If you want to die, I don't mind giving you a coffin." Qin Hao took it. You are really boastful. Although your body is strong, it does not mean that your strength is strong. Even if you have level 18 spiritual strength, in the current situation, killing you is as easy as killing chicken. This life and death contract, count me in. Lin Pingji carried a long sword on his back and walked up to Qin Hao in a provocative manner. His eyes seemed to be saying, "I'll say it again. Lin Pingji, will definitely step on Qin Hao's head and make you my stepping stone. Since that's the case, I'll give the 3 of you a chance to be awesome. Come at me together." Qin Hao didn't say anything else. He glanced at the Grand Elder and told him to hurry up and proceed to the 3rd trial. After the competition, Qin Hao was in a hurry to find Hai Laosi. He wanted to see how Xiaolei and Xiaojun were settling down, as well as Aku. Although Aku was a half-blood, he still needed to drink human blood to survive. She didn't want to cause any trouble. Wow, today's competition is really rare. The top 3 on the Heaven leaderboard have all chosen to challenge Qin Hao. Qin Hao also asked Duan Shuelu, Mountain Rock, and Lin Pingji to fight together. It seems that Qin Hao is quite capable, but his tone is too arrogant. He doesn't put anyone in his eyes at all. He actually challenged 3 people by himself. So what if he has level 18 spiritual strength? Arrogant people will always pay the price for their stupidity. He just entered the inner yard less than half a day ago. He hasn't had time to cultivate and enhance his strength. Challenging the top 3 on the Heaven leaderboard to a life and death battle is undoubtedly the same as courting death. The inner yard immediately exploded. The students were discussing spiritedly. None of them were optimistic about Qin Hao. In their eyes, Qin Hao had won 2 trials in a row. Undoubtedly, His self-confidence had inflated to the sky. That was why he was so arrogant. The result of being arrogant was death, and he deserved to die. I won't allow your life and death battle. At this time, the Grand Elder waved his hand and shouted majestically, forcibly interrupting the competition. As the students discussed, Qin Hao's talent was undoubtedly a genius among geniuses. This was an indisputable fact. But geniuses also needed to cultivate. For example, if a newborn baby challenged a warrior, no matter how strong the baby's talent was, death was the only outcome. The baby's hair was not yet fully grown. He couldn't even walk. Did he have the strength to hold a saber? Qin Hao belonged to this kind of person. Once he was proud, his self-confidence would inflate. Even at this moment, the Grand Elder decided to re-examine Qin Hao's personality problem for the second time. People who were too arrogant didn't live long. They would easily attract disasters. The cabinet didn't want them. Congratulations, you saved your life. Duan Shuailu looked at the Grand Elder with dissatisfaction. The Grand Elder was obviously protecting Qin Hao. Qin Hao, don't be a coward if you have the guts. Accept our challenge. Rock Mountain shouted angrily, unwilling to give up. You can hide today, but can you hide tomorrow? It's good if you agree now. If you don't agree, At this point, Lin Pingji stared at Xiaohua and Nalan Li like a venomous snake. He licked his lips sinisterly. His intention was clear. He would find trouble with Xiaohua and Nalan Li. He would even make everyone related to Qin Hao die mysteriously. After all, there would be disciples dying mysteriously every day in the inner yard. Bastard big brother, don't be fooled by them. You're no match for them now. Xiaohua stood up and shouted angrily. He also didn't believe that Qin Hao's real combat strength could surpass the three of them. After all, the weakest of the three was a level 3 Heaven Sage. Duan Shuailu was only half a step away from becoming a Yuan King. At most, I won't attend this school. Brother Qin Hao, don't fight with these 3 shameless people. Nalan Li said. She was so angry that her chest puffed up. Great Elder, as you can see, it's not that I'm arrogant. It's just that some people want a yard after taking an inch. They're lawless like mad dogs. If I go to the inner yard with you, my brother and sister will die in the inner yard in the next second. I have to fight in the life and death battle. If you don't hurry, my people will be safe in the inner yard. Qin Hao looked at the Great Elder resolutely. He could only leave with peace of mind after getting rid of these 3 troublemakers. Sai, you are too irrational and muddle-headed. You are destroying your own future. The Great Elder had no choice but to sigh. With a wave of his hand, the water level of the lake started to fall. The 2 broken pieces of the ground made a rumbling sound and merged together again. Indeed, even though he was the Great Elder of the inner yard, he couldn't keep watching over the safety of a few inner yard disciples all day for Qin Hao. He didn't have the time or effort. However, Qin Hao's move was extremely stupid. If he could swallow his anger and cultivate for a year or so before fighting in the life and death battle, he would have a better chance of winning. What a pity, what a pity. The Great Elder waved his hand again. Suddenly, a battle stage protruded from the ground and stood in the middle of the crowd, indicating the start of the 3rd round. The battle stage assessed the actual combat ability of the disciples. Whoever was stronger would naturally be ranked higher. Although there would occasionally be people who would focus on the main point, most of them would stop there. However, there were also life and death battles in the battle stage. Once the 2 sides signed the life and death agreement, even the elders couldn't interfere. Therefore, when Qin Hao stepped on the battle stage, he had to resign himself to fate. The Great Elder also felt hatred in his heart. Why didn't Qin Hao listen to his kind words and let down his good intentions? In order to protect my brother and fight to the death, if it's stupid, I, Qin Hao, would rather be stupid for the rest of my life. If I have to sacrifice the safety of my family in exchange for the qualification to live, I, Qin Hao, would rather not have this future. Qin Hao also laughed at the Great Elder's so-called good intentions. Compromise? Sorry, that was not Denda's style. Good spirit, junior brother Qin Hao. I, Han Man, have never admired anyone in the inner yard. Yi Wuhan is not qualified for my admiration, but today I admire you." Han Man gave Qin Hao a thumbs up. Swish, swish, swish. Below the stage, thumbs were raised one after another to Qin Hao's position. At the beginning, everyone admired Qin Hao's potential. At this moment, they were all convinced by his personality charm. "I'll go first in the first round. Qin Hao, come on the stage and die." While speaking, Lin Pingji did not give Duan Shuailu and Rock Mountain a chance to respond. With a swish, he rushed to the fighting ring and pointed at Qin Hao below provocatively. A smile appeared on Lin Pingji's face. He only needed one sword strike to kill Qin Hao. If Duan Shuailu fought, Lin Pingji would not have a chance to perform. Of course, he also had to guard against Qin Hao's close combat ability. His opponent's Saint strength was very strong. Lin Pingji was not confident that he could block Qin Hao's punch. He decided to distance himself and kill with sword chi. "Damn it, Lin Pingji, this bastard took advantage of me." Rock Mountain was very annoyed and his eyes were filled with hatred. If Qin Hao was killed by Lin Pingji, then he would kill Lin Pingji to vent his hatred. Well, let Lin Pingji test Qin Hao's real strength with his Bixia swordsmanship. Duan Shuailu was very careful. From the beginning until the end, Qin Hao had never revealed his cultivation, and the exact extent of his strength was still a mystery until now. Everyone only knew that his Saint strength was very strong. As for the golden light that flashed by, Duan Shuailu did not see clearly what the golden light was. "Before I attack, I'll give you one last chance. Come at me together. Otherwise, you will die faster and more embarrassing." Qin Hao slowly went to the fighting ring. His seemingly calm face revealed his killing intent. They dared to threaten Xiaogua and Nalan Li. These three people deserve to die. "Ha ha! Qin Hao, do you really think you are invincible?" Whipping away the 9th layer holy stone, shattering the soul-locking stone, pinning down the 7th elder, and releasing 18th tier spiritual energy. "Where are all of these? In front of our Lin family's Bixia swordplay, you are like a child." Puff! Lin Pingji did not finish his words. Suddenly, a beam of light penetrated the field and pierced Lin Pingji's throat, stopping his words. "You talk too much." Qin Hao walked along the stone steps and finally stepped on the stage. He said expressionlessly. His right index finger was glowing. The beam of light that penetrated the field was Qin Hao's instantaneous golden finger. Fast, incomparably fast, killing in the blink of an eye. You plop. Lin Pingji covered his throat and fell to the ground. Blood flowed out from his body and flowed down the stage. What? One move? This scene was undoubtedly shocking, causing the spectating students below the stage to be dumbfounded. They did not even see how Qin Hao attacked, nor did they feel the fluctuation of primordial qi from Qin Hao. It was too fast. There was no time to react. Perhaps only Lin Pingji, who was hit, could fully understand the horror of Qin Hao. Unfortunately, he would never have a chance to speak. "You bastard, you didn't even say anything before attacking. Lin Pingji hasn't even drawn his sword yet, and you've already launched a sneak attack. Despicable and shameless to the extreme." After the shock, Rock Mountain was the first to point at Qin Hao and scold him. He felt that it was not worth it for Lin Pingji. After all, he died under Qin Hao's finger before he could use his powerful Bixia swordsmanship. At the same time, this was what everyone thought as well. They thought that Qin Hao had an unfair advantage. Chapter 637. You are so presumptuous. Yin Dashin was so angry that he stamped his feet, and the stone floor under his feet cracked. He looked at Duan Shuailu and said, "Duan Shuailu, I will fight in the second round. Do you have any objections? Of course, if you give up such a wonderful opportunity to kill Qin Hao, I will give you 1,000 earth crystals." Yin Dashin was determined to avenge his two cousins. "Okay." Duan Shuailu unexpectedly nodded with a treacherous smile. He did not compete with Yin Dashin for the chance to fight. Although Lin Pingji's strength was not in his eyes, he was not a mediocre person. He was killed by Qin Hao without any precautions. No, it was not that Lin Pingji did not take precautions, but that it was too late. Qin Hao's speed was too fast. Duan Shuailu also remembered this point in his heart. He decided to let Yin Dashin fight again. It would be best to force Qin Hao to use his trump card. 8th level Heavenly Saint. Don't let me down. Duan Shuailu's eyes were gloomy, and he said to Yin Dashin with a sarcastic tone, "Don't look down on me. I won't let you down. I will only make you envious." Yin Dashin was ridiculed, and his anger increased by 70%. He rubbed his huge fist and stepped on the stage. "Brother Qin Hao, you have to be careful." Nalan Li's tender little face was filled with worry. Yin Dashin was much stronger than Lin Pingji, and this battle was very risky. "Don't worry, I believe my brother has a way to deal with it. Even if he can't win, he will not be killed." Sayogwa calmed down at this moment. After watching the first battle, Qin Hao's strength made Sayogwa regain his confidence. He was no longer worried, and there was even a trace of excitement. He was eager to see Qin Hao's real skills. Qin Hao disappeared for 2 months, and no one knew where he went. This time, his momentum was extremely strong, and his spiritual power was greatly improved. Sayogwa firmly believed that Qin Hao must have made breakthroughs in other aspects, so he was full of curiosity. "Brat, if you admit defeat now, I guarantee with my status as the Great Elder that I will spare your life." The Great Elder raised his head and said, Yinshan was not someone Lin Pingji could compare to. The difference between a 3rd-level Heavenly Sage and an 8th-level Heavenly Sage was not small. You only have one chance to make a move. Qin Hao ignored the first Elder's advice and pointed at Rock Mountain with a stern face. Bah! Rock Mountain disapprovingly spat at Lin Pingji. Then he kicked Lin Pingji's corpse and kicked it off the stage. The students below the stage quickly moved away. Looking at Lin Pingji's corpse, they shook their heads and sighed. In any case, this person was ranked 3rd in the previous heaven roll. Now that he was defeated, he was as cheap as an ant. Immediately after, the gazes of the students returned to the battle arena, attracted by the second battle. Everyone, guess who will win and who will die this time? It's hard to say. Qin Hao still hasn't shown his true strength. He's a little unfathomable. Didn't you hear what he said? Yinshan only has one chance to make a move. After one move, he must be confident that he can kill him. Isn't this too impossible? If Qin Hao said that he will win, I would believe it. However, it is absolutely impossible for him to kill an 8th-level Heavenly Sage, Yinshan, in one move. That's right. Even Duan Shuailu, who is a peak Heavenly Sage, would not dare to be so arrogant as to kill Yinshan in one move. The students whispered to each other. After discussing, they shook their heads repeatedly. Duan Shuailu heard this, but was not angry. In fact, these disciples were right. He was indeed not confident that he could kill Yinshan in one move. After all, Yinshan was an elite with an essence soul. The difference between an essence soul elite and an ordinary elite could not be mentioned in the same breath. Even a 1st-level Yuan Monarch would not be able to defeat Yinshan, who had an essence soul, in one move. This lad is quite arrogant. Let's see what makes him so arrogant. Duan Shuailu held his breath and stared at the battle arena without blinking. This time, he had to see through Qin Hao's cultivation. One move is enough to kill you. Pay with your lives for my 2 cousins. Yinshan shouted calmly. His aura soared to the sky. The primordial qi around him surged and spread. The phantom of a mountain appeared behind him. He used his trump card as soon as he attacked. After awakening his soul, Rock Mountain raised both his palms to the sky and channeled his level 8 saint energy into the mountain above his head, causing the illusory mountain to gradually materialize. It shone with a dark black stone luster and looked majestic, shaking the earth. The air seemed to become extremely oppressive at this moment, making people feel stuffy. Even if they were standing below the battle arena, the thousands of students could deeply feel the suffocating pressure on the battle arena. Although he is weaker than me by 1 realm, to break Yinshan's attack, I have to use at least 80% of my strength to win. Of course, if I use all my strength, I can easily defeat him. Duan Shuelu nodded. Yin Shan's essence soul was indeed extraordinary. The reason why he did not say that he would kill Yin Shan, but only defeat him, was that Duan Shuelu could not kill Yin Shan without paying a price. It was even more impossible for Qin Hao to do so. I'll kill you in one hit. Go 10,000 heavens shaking. With a wild roar, Yin Shan's muscles bulged. The veins on his arms congealed. The towering mountain above his head was thrown at Qin Hao. Wong. The heavy mountain's shadow fell down. It seemed like it could smash the arena in one hit. The scene was shocking. At this time, many students could not help but step back. Their faces were filled with shock. They no longer believed that Qin Hao could defeat Yin Shan in one hit. Instead, it was more likely that Yin Shan could kill Qin Hao. The Essence Soul's attack is not bad. It's strong enough. Unfortunately, my fist is stronger than yours. With a low groan, Qin Hao poured his qi into his right fist. Suddenly, a golden light flashed on his arm. The light was arranged in a very regular pattern, like scales, but it also revealed a domineering majesty. At the same time, the art of endless samsara was running. The dragon whirlpool technique was overlaying. The primordial qi in his meridians changed. Just as Mount Tai was about to fall, Qin Hao punched out. It was unstoppable. Boom! The fist turned into a dragon that swallowed the sky. The dragon's roar reverberated in all directions, making all living things fearful. The dragon formed by the fist was like a drill that rose into the sky. It drilled into the bottom of the mountain and came out from the top of the mountain. It pierced through the entire mountain. The towering mountain exploded and disintegrated, turning into nothingness in front of everyone. This scene was extremely shocking. With a single punch, he dispersed the shadows that were attacking him, revealing the clear sky. Oh my god, Qin Hao really broke Yin Shan's Essence Soul attack in one hit. That golden glow appeared again. What is it? Why do I have the urge to kneel down? It's completely out of my control. The disciples were terrified. Because of the unknown, their fear was even stronger. However, the second appearance of the Dragon Soul did not mean that others did not see it clearly. At least the 10 great elders of the Inner Pavilion and Duan Shuelu, who was about to become a Yuan monarch, saw some clues. The golden glow that covered Qin Hao's arm was a layer of scales. It was an extremely high-end and noble scale that looked down on all living things. Haha, a mere level 5 heavenly saint. I thought you were unfathomable. So this is it. Qin Hao, you are dead this time. Duan Shuelu laughed maniacally. The moment Qin Hao raised his aura and punched, Duan Shuelu accurately grasped his realm. He was only a level 5 heavenly saint. However, Qin Hao's technique was very special. It could gather all the essence energy in his body at one point, creating a penetrating strength that ordinary people could not achieve. Presumably, Qin Hao's punch was at least a set of high-tier Earth-rank fist arts, and this set of fist arts could unleash the might of a flying dragon, which imperceptibly increased the power of his fist arts. It also gave Qin Hao the ability to kill enemies above his level. Duan Shuelu believed that Qin Hao would win this round. However, defeating Yin Shan, who was a level 8 heavenly saint, was obviously Qin Hao's limit. He was no match for Duan Shuelu, who was a peak heavenly saint. Moreover, Duan Shuelu's power was comparable to that of a level 1 Yuan monarch, or even stronger. Therefore, Qin Hao had to die in the hands of Duan Shuelu. Duan Shuelu did not believe that the golden glow was Qin Hao's essence soul. Big Brother is so powerful. Sayogwa said in a daze. Duan Shuelu had blasted away the attack of an essence soul expert with one punch. If it had been Sayogwa, he would not have been able to withstand Qin Hao's punch if he had released the defense of the bull demon body. There was no suspense in the second round. Yin Shan's only outcome was to lose. How is this possible? On the stage, Yin Shan looked at the mountain that had turned into light foam and dissipated in the air. It was as if Qin Hao had destroyed his chest. I said that you only have one chance to make a move. Now it's my turn to attack. Qin Hao shouted calmly. Essence Qi floated around his body as he formed his second punch. At this moment, the golden glow covered his right fist again, exuding a destructive power. The roar of a dragon reverberated in the arena. Yin Shan pointed at Qin Hao, whose aura was rising, and retreated in horror. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and shouted, "Absorb the soul into the body." Buzz! The illusory mountain behind him turned into white smoke and drilled into his back. His defensive power began to rise steadily, and a layer of black rock-like luster appeared on the surface of his body, making the strong rock mountain look like a sturdy iron bucket. Breaking my attack doesn't mean that you can break my defense. I can't win against you, but you can't win against me either. Ha! Qin Hao, let's continue this battle of attrition. Yin Shan laughed confidently. Since he could not attack, he would focus on defense. With the protection of the mountain essence soul, he did not believe that Qin Hao could break through his body, unless Qin Hao had the strength of a level 9 heavenly saint, or a source spirit. I've said it before, I'll defeat you with a single punch. Coincidentally, Qin Hao had the strength of a peak heavenly saint, and he also had a source spirit. Not just a single source spirit, but two. So he chose to speak with facts and sent out a fist at his opponent. Flame Dragon Fist. Roar. The flying dragon appeared again, rolling up waves of flames as it flew under Qin Hao's fist. With a honglong sound, it exploded on Yin Shan's chest. This punch was extremely heavy. Yin Dashin spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying 100 feet into the air. He slammed into the ground, creating a human-shaped crater. When he landed, there was a bloody hole in his chest, and all of his organs had been shattered. You really are pitiful. Qin Hao shook his head. Yin Shan's attack could not block his fist, but could his defense block it? It was worth mentioning that his Mountain Essence Soul was not only 1 or 2 levels lower than Qin Yun's Stone Essence Soul, it was 5 or 6 levels lower. Qin Yun's Stone Essence Soul represented all kinds of rocks, and Yin Shan's Mountain Essence Soul was much smaller. You despicable bastard. Yin Shan was not dead yet. He pointed at Qin Hao's nose and said in an unwilling voice, Chapter 638. Ha ha! Ridiculous. Who do you think I, Rocky Mountain, am? I am a rare super genius of the family. Although I lost this battle, the family will be proud of me, huh? Rocky Mountain looked at the sky, his laughter gradually weakening. Since Rocky Mountain was born, why was Qin Hao born? It seems that no one in the cabinet will avenge you. Qin Hao sighed, although he was not afraid. Not being able to kill them all was still a very disgusting thing. As for you, although you lost, I'm sorry, but your family will only feel shame. A super genius like you only appeared in 100 years, but you couldn't even block a punch from me. What was the point of you being born? You also have a face. You said you lost honorably? Pooh! Rocky Mountain's blood rushed to his heart, and he died on the arena. Big Brother actually advanced to the 5th rank Heavenly Sage. He really broke through. Siowa's eyes lit up, and his body trembled due to excitement. Although he could not see Qin Hao's trump card, he could see the other party's realm. This speed of improvement could be said to be terrifying. After not seeing each other for 2 months, Siowa had stepped into the profound sage realm from the mortal sage realm. He was happy for a while, but Hao's realm was even higher, which was clearly a blow to him. This kid is not bad. His fighting talent is very strong. Old man is very satisfied. The great elder, who had previously accused Qin Hao of destroying his future, nodded again, his eyes full of appreciation. Using the strength of his whole body to condense one's strength to break through Rocky Mountain's defense. It was far beyond the fighting concept of ordinary disciples. In conclusion, it was also thanks to Qin Hao's special martial skills. The great elder was the same as Duan Shuelu. He simply thought that the golden light that erupted from Qin Hao's arm was a high-level cultivation technique. If this kid had an essence spirit, his achievements would be even higher. What a pity, what a pity. The great elder secretly shook his head. Since the start of the Heaven List tournament, It was completely clear that Qin Hao did not have an essence spirit. Perhaps he had already used it. He was just an ordinary person with superb agility, superb martial skills, and superb fighting talent. But by relying on these ordinary skills, he was able to defeat Yin Dashin, who had a 1 in 10,000 source spirit. He was a pitiful, respectable, and fearful junior. Heavens, it's just as Qin Hao said. He really killed Rock Mountain with one punch. I can't believe it. He only has the strength of a mere stage 5 heavenly saint. Although I am like an ant in front of this strength, compared to Rock Mountain, who possesses an essence spirit, Qin Hao should be extremely weak. Why is that? Didn't you hear what the first elder said? He focused all of his origin energy on a single point, and that's how he managed to create such terrifying destruction. Why didn't I think of that? Along with the discussions of the disciples, some of them seemed to have gained enlightenment after watching the battle. They actually sat down cross-legged below the battle arena and entered a state of enlightenment. Moreover, more and more people were sitting cross-legged, densely surrounding the arena. Over 1,000 people closed their eyes at the same time, facing Qin Hao together as if they were worshipping him. Stingy, what's there to worship? You should worship me, because Qin Hao will be killed by me next. Duan Shuailu reprimanded with jealousy. He couldn't stand others worshipping Qin Hao. He angrily stepped on the ground, and his body floated onto the stage. Wasteland, get out of here. After getting on the stage, Duan Shuailu also kicked Rock Mountain's corpse. It was simply a useless thing. However, Rock Mountain did force Qin Hao to reveal his realm. This point was still worthy of recognition. If this was heard by Qin Hao, he would definitely despise him. A stage 8 heavenly saint with an essence spirit forced him to reveal his realm? All right, this was the only use of Rock Mountain. Unfortunately, he couldn't force him to reveal his true trump card. You are the same as them. You only have one chance. Pointing at Duan Shuailu, who was on the stage, Qin Hao said in the same tone, even the same tone of contempt. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. The disciples who had just fallen into a state of enlightenment were no longer in the mood to continue. Arrogant, really arrogant. Facing Duan Shuailu, Qin Hao actually speaks in such an unscrupulous manner. I don't know if there is something wrong with his brain, or his tone is as strong as his strength. Rock Mountain, a stage 8 heavenly saint, is no match for Duan Shuailu at all. Even if Qin Hao is strong enough, it is impossible for him to defeat Duan Shuailu in one move this time. More importantly, Duan Shuailu is half a step into the king realm. Haha, I'm afraid Qin Hao will become a joke in this battle. The disciples talked and fixed their eyes on the stage. Brother, let's stop here. You have done your best. Saiowa looked at Qin Hao anxiously. No matter how he looked at it, Qin Hao could not be a match for Duan Shuailu. Saiowa, who was familiar with Qin Hao, knew very well that in the past, Qin Hao could challenge opponents who were 3 levels higher than him. When facing opponents who were 4 levels higher than him, he could at most protect himself. This meant that Qin Hao, who was currently a stage 5 heavenly saint, had obviously reached his limit to kill Rock Mountain. In front of Duan Shuailu, who was half a step into the king realm, there was no possibility of him winning. Lad, I still say the same thing. Take the initiative to admit defeat. With my status, I can save your life. The chief grand elder stroked his beard with a patronizing look. In response, Qin Hao ignored him again and pointed at Duan Shuailu. Half Yuan King, you can make your move now. Qin Hao was not arrogant. He could not challenge opponents who were 4 levels higher than him. That was in the past, not now. In terms of physical strength, Qin Hao was a demigod. In addition, he had twin origin souls. When he was hiding from the 3 aristocratic families in the wasteland, he had killed a stage 1 Yuan King in the most tragic battle. Duan Shuailu was merely a half Yuan King. He could not threaten Qin Hao at all. You will pay a painful price for your arrogance. Take this. Feel the terror of the real number 1 person in the inner yard. Duan Shuailu rushed forward quickly and threw out a wave of water vapor behind him. He did not create a shocking scene like when Rock Mountain attacked. But when he arrived in front of Qin Hao, he suddenly struck out with his palm. In an instant, his source spirit appeared behind him. A vast river overflowed, setting off raging waves. The water from his source spirit poured into his palm, making it look like his palm had turned illusory, emitting a silvery light. This palm was based on Qin Hao's fighting style. He poured all his origin qi into his palm and aimed to kill the enemy in one move. This showed that Duan Shuilu was indeed not ordinary. He was able to apply what he had learned, and his ability to master it was very strong. His palm that contained the origin soul was stronger than Qin Hao's attack when he killed Rock Mountain. Dragon swirls in all directions. Qin Hao's reaction was also extremely fast. He gathered the void with his palm, and this move seemed to have absorbed all the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the entire inner yard. The spiritual qi gathered in the center of his palm, and with a sweep of his right palm, 8 flying dragons flew out and arranged themselves around his body. The two strong forces collided in one move. Boom! In the earth-shattering explosion, the arena shook and sank 2 meters deep. A layer of visible water vapor, mixed with sharp golden light, swept around. The students who were close to the arena did not have time to react. They flew upside down and were seriously injured in one move. If it were not for the 10 Inner Circle elders who came to the rescue at the critical moment, hundreds of students would have been killed by the aftermath of the fight between the two of them. In the arena, Duan Shuilu smashed the 8 flying dragons circling Qin Hao with one move and hit his chest hard with his palm. With a muffled sound, dense dragon scales appeared on Qin Hao's chest. The sturdy dragon scales immediately dissolved the opponent's attack. Duan Shuilu's palm energy could not penetrate Qin Hao's body. A half-step Yuan Monarch is indeed not something trash can compare to. Qin Hao looked down at the palm imprinted on his chest. As this palm had absorbed Qin Hao's battle essence, it actually shattered his protective dragon energy. Qin Hao felt a slight pain in his chest, but in the end, it was still firmly blocked by the dragon scales. This also showed that Duan Shuilu could not break his defense. Moreover, Qin Hao had not used his real trump card, the Golden Bell Protection, but a half-step Yuan Monarch only managed to shatter my protective qi. Isn't that too ridiculous? The corners of Qin Hao's mouth curled up. His eyes flashed, and he also hit his opponent with his palm. When he attacked, the back of his hand was covered with dragon scales. There was even a huge and ferocious illusory dragon claw that wrapped around Qin Hao's palm. Before the palm came close, it already had the aura of death. What? Duan Shuilu had not exchanged blows with Qin Hao before, so he naturally did not know how powerful his opponent was. Previously, he had always thought that Yin Dashin and Lin Pingji were too weak. Now that he was personally involved in the battle, he finally understood how terrifying Qin Hao was. Duan Shuilu's attack, which had been combined with Qin Hao's battle techniques, could not even break his opponent's defense. It had only shattered Qin Hao's protective qi. This was undoubtedly humiliating. If it had been anyone else, even if they were facing a 9th-level Yuan Monarch, Duan Shuilu would have been able to severely injure or even kill a 9th-level Yuan Monarch without an essence soul. But he had no time to think. Qin Hao's fatal palm had already struck, sailing against the current. Knowing how terrifying Qin Hao's physical body was, Duan Shuilu did not dare to take it head-on. He used his essence soul secret technique and condensed a water puppet in his position. Taking this opportunity, his body turned into a shadow and retreated quickly. His body was extremely agile. Bang! With a palm strike, a splash of water appeared in front of him. Qin Hao's palm strike had dispersed the water puppet, but Duan Shuilu was lucky enough to dodge it. Your reaction is quite fast. Qin Hao shook his hand to shake off the water droplets on his hand. Duan Shuilu, a half-step Yuan Monarch, had underestimated his opponent for not being able to kill him in one move. Qin Hao was relaxed, but Duan Shuilu was horrified. He had just brushed shoulders with death. Qin Hao's palm strike had dispersed his water puppet. That water puppet was condensed from Essence Soul and could withstand an all-out attack of an opponent of the same level. But it could not withstand Qin Hao's attack, which was a 5th-level heavenly saint. He is simply a monster. Duan Shuailu could not help but say this. His face was covered in sweat. He is so powerful. Someone from the outer yard defeated Duan Shuailu with one palm strike. It is simply impossible for someone from the inner yard to do so. Is Qin Hao's true cultivation level a 5th-level heavenly saint? Is he still hiding his strength? In their eyes, there was only Qin Hao, a super disciple with twin original spirits, a peerless genius that was hard to meet in 1,000 years. In ancient times, as long as a martial artist had a twin origin spirit, which one of them would have a heaven-defying good fortune. The Scarlet Sun Martial Institution had picked up a treasure this time. Who are you? Qin Hao did not have time to pay attention to the excitement and shock in other people's eyes. He glanced at the inner pavilion disciple who had attacked him. At this moment, he secretly raised his strength, and the endless samsara technique was running in an orderly manner. Just now, he had hurriedly used his twin essence souls to fight against him. In fact, he did not use his full strength. If they fought seriously, Qin Hao was 80% sure that he could kill this person. Of course, he would also have to pay a little price. Duan Huolu angrily shouted. His right palm shook and a white bone fire rose, which violently burned the wound and stopped the bleeding. Then, he glanced at the corpse of Duan Shuailu on the arena. The corpse only had half of its head left. Its eyes were full of fear. It could be seen that Duan Shuailu was unwilling and desperate before. Duan Huolu, Qin Hao said in a low voice. Just by this name, it was enough to analyze the identity of the other party. It turned out that the elder brother of Duan Shuailu had come. It was really funny. Originally, he thought that Yin Dashin would have a backer in the inner pavilion. Unexpectedly, the backer was Duan Shuailu. It seemed that this matter could not be settled peacefully. Duan Huolu, how dare you? At this time, the chief elder flashed and stood between the two of them. You have disregarded the rules of the inner yard. You broke into the heavenless competition and attacked our disciples. You must be severely punished. You are too shameless to attack our disciples just because you are a disciple of the inner yard. If you are not punished, we will have no sense of security in the inner yard. A large number of disciples of the inner yard indignantly defended Qin Hao. To put it bluntly, they were actually defending themselves. Qin Hao now represented the interests of the inner yard. If Duan Huolu went berserk because of Duan Shuailu's death and killed people everywhere in the inner yard, wouldn't there be a lot of unlucky people? No one wanted to pay for Duan Shuailu's death. Duan Huolu, go back to the inner pavilion immediately. The chief elder became angrier and angrier. He pointed at Duan Hua and shouted angrily, "This person killed my brother. If I don't take revenge, I'm not worthy of being a brother." Duan Huolu would not let the matter rest. He hated Qin Hao to the core. I will say it again. Get lost. The chief elder roared. The aura of a peak Yuan monarch rose, and the whole inner yard shook violently. Not only did the ground shake, but thousands of houses also shook. Young man, what is your name? Duan Huolu gritted his teeth and asked Qin Hao, suppressing the anger in his heart. Qin Hao replied coldly, "If you have the guts, I will wait for you in the inner pavilion. That day will be the day you die." Duan Huolu snorted and glared at the chief elder with hatred. If it were not for the strength of this old man, he would have killed him as well. Immediately, Duan Huolu waved his hand and swept away half of Duan Shuailu's head. He turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky above the inner yard. He flew toward a towering mountain in the depths of Qiyang University. Qin Hao, right? I will also wait for you in the inner pavilion. I look forward to a battle with you. Yi Wuhan, who had always been cold and emotionless, took the initiative to speak for the first time. He did not speak more than 3 sentences in a year. Today, not only did he speak to Qin Hao, who was a disciple of the inner yard, but he also took the initiative to challenge him. Obviously, Qin Hao had also aroused Yi Wuhan's great interest. After he finished speaking, he silently disappeared in midair, as if he had never been there. He seemed to be extremely profound. Sigh. The last remaining disciple, Xinyuan Wuhuang, shook his head and looked at Qin Hao sympathetically. Junior brother, I don't know if today is your honor or your sorrow. Cherish your remaining life. Xinyuan Wuhuang knew that no one who fought with Yi Wuhan could survive. After speaking, a golden light flashed, and Xinyuan Wuhuang disappeared into thin air. The appearance of 3 disciples from the inner pavilion at the same time would definitely be a sensational event on a normal day. However, the disciples were not shocked today, because in their eyes, the person who was more sensational was Qin Hao. No one would have thought that Qin Hao's real battle strength would be so terrifying and powerful. Then, thinking back to the first round, he had knocked away the 9th layer Holy Stone and shattered the soul-locking stone in the second round. Everything seemed insignificant. On the other hand, Lin Pingji and Yin Dashan were simply 2 clowns. In front of Qin Hao, they had overestimated their abilities and were seeking their own deaths. Not to mention Yin Dashan. Even Duan Shuilu and Duan Huilu did not gain any advantage after exchanging blows with Qin Hao. In addition to the strength of Qin Hao, what really worried Xiaogua and the others was that Qin Hao seemed to have aroused the dissatisfaction of Yi Wuhan, the number 1 person in the inner pavilion. Originally, I want to take you back to the inner pavilion after the Heavenless tournament and receive special training. However, for your safety, you should cultivate in the inner yard for a year. Chapter 641. Actually, you don't have to stop us from fighting. If Duan Hua doesn't respect the rules and goes too far, I have a 50% chance of killing him. Qin Hao gestured with 5 fingers, but in reality, he had an 80% chance of winning. He deliberately said 50% because he didn't want to embarrass the Grand Elder of the Inner Sect. After all, Duan Hua was a disciple of the Inner Sect and had been trained by the 10 Great Elders. Hearing this, the Grand Elder frowned and said with a drooping face, "Arrogant." Qin Hao was good in everything, whether it was his aptitude, combat thinking, or character. The only bad thing was that he was too arrogant. 50% chance of killing a disciple of the Inner Sect? I'm afraid you don't even have a 10% chance of winning. Young people always wanted to save face, so they exaggerated and said 50%. Of course, this was what the Grand Elder thought. It's up to you to believe it or not. Qin Hao didn't want to explain. He turned and walked at Xiaogua. Do you understand this battle? Yes. Xiaogua nodded heavily, unable to hide the joy in his eyes. He understood that Qin Hao's words had 2 meanings. First, he wanted to show his current cultivation. Second, and most importantly, he wanted Xiaogua to feel the pressure from the Inner Sect. If he didn't improve his strength as soon as possible, once Qin Hao needed help, Xiaogua wouldn't be able to help him. Don't worry, big brother. I won't drag you down. Within a month, I will break through to the quintessential saint realm. Xiaogua patted his chest and promised. Me too. Brother Qin Hao, I won't embarrass you. Nalan Li looked at Qin Hao with admiration, blinking her big eyes. In addition to being cute and sweet, there was also determination. Me too, Narantsu said calmly. TSK, another group of arrogant juniors. They've all been led astray by Qin Hao. In the distance, the Great Elder snorted disdainfully. Truly, one is marked by the company one keeps. The juniors who followed Qin Hao were all the same. Then all of you can cultivate in peace in the inner yard. I still have other matters to attend to, so I need to leave for a while. At least half a month, at most a month. Nodding encouragingly at the crowd, Qin Hao then looked at the First Elder. First Elder, you won't go back on your promise of 10,000 earth crystals, right? Don't worry, I won't forget what I promised you. However, are you sure you don't want to stay? The First Elder asked doubtfully. In his opinion, even if Qin Hao stayed in the inner yard, it wouldn't affect the special training of the 10 elders. The 10 of them could secretly carry out the training. However, Qin Hao's monthly allowance had to be distributed according to the inner court disciples. Even so, to Qin Hao it was a great gift. No, in a month I will personally go to the inner yard and accept the challenge of Broken Fire Stream and Yi Wuhan. Oh no, I refuse. I admit defeat. We admit that Senior Brother Gua is the second in the inner yard. The three of them hurriedly knelt down and begged for mercy like clowns. According to Qin Hao's style of doing things, as soon as he got on the arena, he would die. As Qin Hao's brother, Caiogua imitated him everywhere. How could the three of them dare to agree? For a moment, these three gutless guys caused many people to mock them. Ha ha, Junior Brother Gua, let me, Han Man, fight you. The inner yard doesn't only have Duan Shuailu and Rock Mountain. I, Fong Jin Chong, the fourth in the heaven ranking, will fight with you. And I, Tai Long, I am Tan Yong, I beg for a fight. Whoosh! A few people stood out from the crowd, all of them staring at Caiogua with fighting spirit. In an instant, the curtains of the arena were drawn again. However, this time, the main character was Caiogua. Sai, will the ninth layer of the Holy Stone fall? Lin Feng had not yet started the first round of the test. He sighed faintly and raised his head to look at the vast sky. However, there was not even a shadow of the Holy Stone in the sky. If one followed Lin Feng's gaze, there was actually a pile of broken pieces falling from a height of several million miles. The ninth layer of the Holy Stone, including the high platform, was already broken beyond recognition. According to the speed of their fall, in another 4 hours, they would miraculously fall to the ground, in front of the elders. Chapter 642. He wasn't much of a threat to Duan Huilu. What Qin Hao needed to pay attention to was the disciple who had created many legends in Qiyang, Yi Wuhan. Qin Hao didn't know much about this person. He could only guess from the faint aura that he was emitting that his cultivation was no lower than the 5th tier of the King Realm, or even higher. One's cultivation level didn't represent one's strength. It was just an appearance. What was Yi Wuhan's soul? Qin Hao didn't know what fighting style he had on the battlefield. He believed that the other disciples didn't know either, because those who knew were already dead. It seems that this person isn't easy to deal with. He's also unhappy that I broke his record. Qin Hao nodded as they flew in the air. He believed that he wouldn't be much weaker than Yi Wuhan after he recovered the tranquil netherwater. There was also Xinyuan Wuhuang. This person looked ordinary, but other than his hair and eyes, he was actually quite a terrifying character. Others couldn't sense it, but Qin Hao and Dinda's intuition told them that this person's cultivation was no weaker than Yi Wuhan's. His potential might even be above Yi Wuhan's. This was because he was too good at hiding his strength. This kind of seemingly ordinary person was actually the most terrifying when he exploded. Qin Hao knew this very well. Xinyuan Wuhuang doesn't seem to be hostile to me. He doesn't seem like a petty person who harbors jealousy. Smiling faintly, Qin Hao collected his thoughts. If he wasn't forced, he didn't want to have any conflicts with the inner disciples. After all, after the opening of the Medicine Valley, the inner disciples were the strongest in Qiyang. Qiyang wasn't the only one who entered the Medicine Valley. If they couldn't unite, they would be easily swallowed up by the other 3 academies, especially Tian Boaguang, who had a grudge against Qin Hao. Star Moon Academy's fighting strength had always been the best among the 4 academies. The inner disciples were definitely not weaker than Yi Wuhan. With Caiogwa's aptitude, he was barely qualified to enter the Medicine Valley. Of course, if there were others who were willing to join, Qin Hao wouldn't refuse. Xinyuan Wuhuang was a suitable candidate. Now I should go and see Xiaolei, Xiaojun, Aku, and the old demon. Oh, right, and Xing. With a single thought, Qin Hao soared into the sky like a rocket, his speed increasing explosively as he charged straight toward the imperial capital. However, he didn't know that flying was prohibited within the imperial city. Of course, this restriction also had its own rules. For example, the deans and higher-ups of the 4 major academies, as well as the bigwigs of the imperial military, had the right to fly. Normal elementalists were not even allowed to ride horses. Last time, in order to save Yishui Han, Qin Hao was able to fly in the Imperial City because the patrol commanders saw Yao Lao and Qin Hao together. This time, he was not so lucky. Luo Shui, Jinchong District. The Hai Family Trading Company was located in the Golden Regency District. In fact, most of the Empire's merchant shops were located in the Golden District. Just by looking at the name, one could tell that the people living in Jinchong District were all high-ranking officials, nobles, and tycoons. Making money was their life's work. At this moment, on the bustling streets of the Golden Regency District, there was an endless stream of people coming and going. Among them, there was a group of people who were particularly outstanding. Each of them had an extraordinary aura. The person leading the group was a child who was about 10 years old. He was dressed gorgeously and looked like a young master of a noble family. Behind him, there were 3 girls walking side by side. The one in the middle was wearing a sacred white phoenix dress. On the right was a girl who was dressed simply and had no makeup on her face. Although she had no makeup on, she looked even more innocent. The girl on the left was the complete opposite. Her lips were red, and her red dress fluttered in the wind. She exuded an enchanting aura everywhere, forming a sharp contrast with the girl who had no makeup on. As they walked, half of the people on the street stopped in their tracks and exclaimed in admiration, "Beautiful! Too beautiful!" No matter which one of the girls was, they were all unbelievably beautiful. If one could get one of them in one's life, it would be the greatest fortune of one's life. There were also many rich young men who drove their cars into other people's restaurants because they were too engrossed by the scene. This little clay figurine is fun. Sister Xinger, I want to buy it. Wow, this carving is so mighty. Brother Qin Hao will definitely like it. I'll buy it for him. Wow, meat buns. Sister Xing, I want to eat meat buns. I haven't eaten meat buns in a long time. The last time, Brother Qin Hao took me to eat it, I ate 3 whole baskets. Xiao Jun, who used to be dressed in rags, now looked brand new. There was no longer a trace of wretchedness. Under Hai Laoxi's meticulous care, it had only been half a month, but his temperament seemed to have been reborn. Every subtle movement exuded the demeanor of a young master. Almost as soon as he got out of bed, there were more than a dozen pretty maids waiting by his bedside. As for etiquette, it was all taught by Hai Laoxi. As Hai Dafu's representative in Luo Shui, Hai Laoxi was extremely honorable. His etiquette was definitely the best of the best. When facing all kinds of people, there was no fault in his speech and behavior. If Xiaojun was placed in the upper class of Luo Shui right now, no one would have thought that he was still a poor boy half a month ago. Chapter 643. Mu Xiangtian. Xing Er's footsteps paused. A look of disgust flashed through her beautiful starry eyes. Mu Xiangtian was Dan Ji's young alchemist. He was adopted by the external affairs elder of the cabinet, Mu Chunfeng. His alchemy skills were all inherited from his adoptive father. Speaking of which, he was not only Mu Chuanfeng's adopted son, but also Mu Chuanfeng's proud disciple. A few months ago, Qin Hao visited the Hai Clan Trading Company for the first time. It was also at that time that he bought Xing, who had sold herself to bury her father. However, he also met the enemy who had harmed Dan Xian, Mu Chunfeng. Therefore, Qin Hao directly asked Hai Laoxi to tear up the transaction agreement with Mu Chunfeng. As a result, the other party's illegal pills were still rotting in the warehouse. Although Mu Chunfeng was furious at that time, there was nothing he could do. With his ability, he could not touch Hai Laoxi and the Hai Clan Trading Company at all. Therefore, he prepared to use a dirty trick. He sent his adopted son, Mu Xiangtian, to visit the Hai Clan Trading Company every few days, hoping to show off and win Xing Er's favor. It was as if Xing Er had appeared out of thin air in the Hai Clan Trading Company, but she was highly regarded by Hai Laoxi. This was no secret. After secretly asking around, Mu Chunfeng learned that Xing Er was bought by Hai Laoxi out of kindness. He treated her as his own niece, and their relationship was even closer than that of father and daughter. This was quite a good match for Mu Xiangtian, Mu Chunfeng's adopted son. With Mu Xiangtian's outstanding qualifications as a 4th-grade alchemist and the strength of a third-level mortal saint. Although he was not as outstanding as Tian Buguang, he was still a rare talent. Alchemists were very popular on the mainland. Therefore, to Mu Chunfeng, taking Xing Er and then using her to take down Hai Laosi was simply a trivial matter. He was confident in his son's contentment. As long as his son appeared, one look from him was enough to make thousands of women infatuated. Unfortunately, the result was the opposite. When Mu Xiangtian arrogantly stepped into the Hai Clan Trading Company, ready to show his gentlemanly ways so that the cheap girl who he looked down on could feel his charm. As a result, Mu Xiangtian was completely intoxicated by Xing Er's temperament at first glance. At that moment, his entire heart melted. What alchemy? What adoptive father? What mission? They could all go eat shit. He only hoped to obtain the favor of the girl in front of him. The one who had truly fallen was Mu Xiangtian. Unfortunately, Xing Er had never looked him in the eye, even though they coincidentally ran into each other several dozen times every day. No matter where Xing Er went, Mu Xiangtian seemed to grow out of thin air. It was disgusting to the extreme. His figure was everywhere, and there was no way to get rid of him. Chapter 644. This scene made Mu Xiangtian feel both embarrassed and furious. He was clearly unable to get out of the situation. Mu Xiangtian, stop wasting your time on me. Xing Er won't be interested in any other man in this world apart from my young master. Don't appear before me in the future, Xing Er said bluntly. She blinked her eyes at Xiao Jun. This little fellow was becoming smarter and smarter. She had to reward him when she got back. Impossible. Mu Xiangtian could not take the blow. He roared as if he was about to collapse. He looked at Xing Er anxiously. Xing Er, the heavens can bear witness to my sincerity towards you. Who is your young master? I want to duel with him. If he loses, I want him to scram out of the royal capital. Scram far, far away. Tell me, just who is he? Duel? Interesting. Aka's heart trembled inexplicably, as if she sensed something. The corners of her lips curled up mischievously. She raised her hand and pointed at the sky in the distance. Do you really want to see him? You're very lucky that he's here. The him that Aku was referring to as Qin Hao. Looking in the direction she was pointing, a powerful figure of fire shot through the air. It arrived in the blink of an eye with a startling aura. It was so fast that it left people dumbfounded. Moreover, a group of specks of light chased after Qin Hao. At a closer look, they were the patrolling soldiers of the Golden District. They were currently letting out strange cries as they chased after Qin Hao. They landed on the street together. Oh my God, who's so awesome to fly in the Golden District so openly, and to fly in front of Jiang Zhengxiong and Commander Jiang without any scruples. Ha ha, today's too exciting. Let's see if Commander Jiang will beat this idiot into an idiot. Immediately, the people of the Golden District were overjoyed. They all pointed at the figure of fire that Qin Hao had turned into and laughed. Commander Jiang's face darkened when he saw this. His face gradually trembled as if he was trying his best to suppress something. Duel? Sorry, Xing Er is not an item, nor is she a wager. I, Qin Hao, will not bet my Xing on a wager for a good-for-nothing. Amidst his light laughter, Qin Hao placed his hands behind his back. His white robes fluttered as he landed in front of Xing. His valiant bearing made one sigh in admiration. He had already heard Mu Xiangtian's words just now. Brother Qin Hao. Xiao Jun was so excited that he threw away the toy in his hand and jumped into Qin Hao's arms. However, there was someone who moved even faster and was even more excited. It was Xing Er. She saw the master she missed day and night. At this moment, she was so excited that her eyes were filled with tears. She couldn't help but throw herself into Qin Hao's arms. At the same time, she also knocked Xiao Jun to the ground with an ouch. Young master, Xing Er has finally seen you.